Literally, from bizarre accidents to downright unbelievable demises, we're diving into the strangest and most unusual ways people have met their end. Buckle up for an hour of jaw-dropping stories that prove truth is stranger than fiction. This is 1 hour of people who died in extremely unusual ways. It was April 28, 2013 in Darjeeling, India. Shailendra Nath Roy, a 49-year-old police driver known for his daring stunts, was about to attempt another record-breaking feat. This time he aimed to cross the Teesta River, using a zip wire attached only to his hair. Shailendra already held the Guinness World Record for the farthest distance traveled on a zip wire using hair, but he was determined to push his limits even further. Hundreds of spectators gathered on the Coronation Bridge, nearly 10,000 feet above sea level, to witness this daring attempt. Shailendra was no stranger to stunts that left people in awe. Just last year, he had dragged a 42-ton train for 2.5 meters with his hair, and traveled 270 feet on a zip wire, again using his hair. His impressive feats had earned him recognition and admiration, but today would prove to be tragically different. As Shailendra prepared for the stunt, he attached his shoulder-length hair to a pulley on the zip wire. He was wearing a life jacket over his shirt and carried the Indian flag, symbolizing his pride and dedication. The zip wire stretched 180 meters across the turbulent Teesta River, and Shailendra started his journey confidently. He had completed about half the distance when suddenly, disaster struck. His ponytail became entangled in the wheeler of the zip wire, leaving him stuck in midair. Shailendra tried desperately to free himself, using his hands to continue moving forward, but the more he struggled, the more entangled his hair became. Onlookers initially cheered, unaware of the dire situation unfolding before their eyes. For about 25 minutes, Shailendra hung in midair battling to free himself.
I'm fascinated with
the crowd's cheers slowly turned to gasps of horror as they realized something was terribly wrong. Shailendra's movements grew weaker, and he became motionless after about 20 minutes. The lack of an ambulance or a doctor on site meant that immediate medical help was unavailable.
The death industry
Local media
and
reported that
the food
Shailendra suffered a
industry.
major cardiac arrest,
I'm a sponge.
likely caused
I
by
want
a
to
nervous
absorb
breakdown from the
all the
prolonged
knowledge.
suspension. Rescuers finally brought him down after approximately 45 minutes, but it was too late. Shailendra was rushed to a nearby hospital in Siliguri, 450 kilometers away, but he was declared dead on arrival.
Use your head next time. Bang your head.
Heartbreaking.
Be on the next episode.
Covering the stunt recalled, he was desperately trying to move forward. He was trying to scream out some instruction, but no one could follow what he was saying. After struggling for 30 minutes, he became still. Shailendra's family, including his wife and 2 sons,
Next time I watch porn on my TV, I ain't gonna be so gracious. I'll turn that son of a bitch up to 100.
Witnessed his brother's stunt for the first time, expressed the family's grief. We were proud of his bravery. He was sure to win, but destiny has taken his life and the most beloved member of our family as well. Friends and colleagues mourned the loss of a man who had inspired many with his daring feats. Authorities later revealed that Shailendra had not obtained the necessary permission for the stunt. Siliguri Police Commissioner Kay stated that Roy was not on duty
Next time I go on my next road trip, honey, then I am going to be turning on my playlist of porn. All my cats survive and keeping the TV on volume 100. No, fuck that. I'm getting a goddamn tailgate speaker.
Including pulling vehicles with his hair and traveling long
Make this
distances.
JBL sound like a fucking
His
church
dedication
mouse.
was evident, but it also showed the inherent dangers of extreme stunts. In the aftermath of Shailendra's tragic death, the incident sparked discussions about the risks involved in such performances and the importance of safety precautions.
And I'm going to open a window and put
The
it in the
absence of
fucking
medical
window.
personnel and the lack of official permission underscored the need for stricter
I'm going
regulations
to be
and
going
oversight.
somewhere on a nice vacation.
It was
somewhere.
April 11, 1996
Next
in
road trip.
Cheyenne, Wyoming. Jessica DeBroff, a 7-year-old girl from Falmouth, Massachusetts, was attempting to set a record as the youngest pilot to fly across the United States.
Oh, I'm bloody.
She was accompanied by her father, 57-year-old Lloyd Dubroff, and Joe Reed, a 52-year-old part-time flight instructor and full-time stockbroker.
I just had an entire pizza.
They were in a Cessna 177B, embarking on a journey they called the Sea to Shining Sea flight, an ambitious 6,900-mile trip from coast to coast. Jessica's journey began on April 10th, departing from Half Moon Bay, California. They planned to reach the East Coast within 8 days, making numerous stops for media interviews. Lloyd Dubroff, who acted as the publicist, created a packed itinerary filled with early morning interviews and long flight hours. The family had received significant media attention, and Jessica's story was captivating the nation. She was often seen in videos sitting on a booster seat in the cockpit, using rudder extensions with both hands on the yoke, guided by Reed's instructions. Jessica's father, Lloyd, was the driving force behind this endeavor. Despite not having a pilot certificate, he planned the route and managed the media engagements. He aimed to make Jessica a national sensation, handing out Sea to Shining Sea baseball caps and recording the journey for ABC News. However, the flight was overloaded, and Lloyd's ambitious schedule left little room for rest. On the morning of April 11th, the weather in Cheyenne was deteriorating. A thunderstorm was approaching, bringing heavy rain, gusting winds, and hail. Reed, despite his fatigue from the previous days, decided to press on to stay on schedule for media commitments.
And that last video they did,
the aircraft, already
about the guy
overloaded,
hanging
faced
from his
additional
hair,
challenges from the high-density
they just showed
altitude of
his dead
Cheyenne,
body.
approximately
I'll
6,670 feet. Reed had logged
was done in
1,484 flight hours,
India or one of those
mostly along the
places.
California coast,
I guess
with
it's
limited
okay.
experience in
It's down
high-altitude flying. Jessica had about 33 hours of flight instruction with Reed, but the idea of her being the sole pilot was more of a publicity stunt than reality. Even before the crash, the Federal Aviation Administration and Guinness Book of Records had expressed concerns about promoting unsafe flying in pursuit of records. Witnesses at Cheyenne Regional Airport saw the Cessna struggle to gain altitude after taking off from runway 30. The aircraft barely climbed above 400 feet and then began to turn right. Moments later, it plunged nose first into a residential street, about 9,600 feet from the runway's end.
That happened on Desperate Housewives. A plane hit Wisteria
The
Lane.
crash site was a
I guess
horrific
this was
scene.
the inspiration
The
for
nose
it.
section
I'll
and
be
forward
damned.
cabin were crushed, and the fuel from the wings spilled out, though there was no fire.
That's how Orson
The
became
NTSB
handicapped.
investigation revealed that Reed had been at the controls during the crash, and the plane had been flying in challenging conditions.
And he was fighting
Strong winds,
with
rain, hail, and low visibility.
Carl.
The aftermath
Susan's
of the crash
ex-husband.
led to significant public
I don't
outcry
watch
and legislative
TV.
changes.
I
Former
love it
President
though.
Clinton signed the Child Pilot Safety Act, which prohibited unlicensed individuals from attempting to set records or engage in aeronautical competitions. This law aimed to prevent similar tragedies by ensuring that only qualified pilots could operate aircraft in such contexts.
Oh my
It
God,
was
I'm
October
still
4th,
like
2009,
blown away
a
at
Sunday,
September 12th.
and
September
Kellyanne Walsh was
12th,
getting
I
ready
got
to
2
clean Teddy's
fucking
cage.
ABBA shows to go
Kellyanne had
to.
cleaned the
2!
cage thousands of times before, and she thought nothing of it
Hell
despite the
yeah.
fact that Teddy was far from your ordinary pet. He was a bear.
Oh, that
Little did
bitch.
Kellyanne know
She has
Teddy
a
wasn't
pet bear.
his usual
She's
self that
asking
day.
for it.
Instead, he was more of an apex predator than a pet.
Oh,
And Kellyanne was just about
my
to find out what
sentiments
that meant.
exactly.
Kellyanne Waltz, who was originally from Massachusetts, was a 37-year-old mother of 2. The woman had always harbored deep affection for
Yeah,
him.
you stick to your English bulldog, not a fucking grizzly bear.
After moving to Ross
And if you
Township,
want a
Pennsylvania,
bear,
with her
get
husband, Michael
him
Waltz,
from a gay bar.
she became a
Fuck.
trusted and important member of the community.
Now those kind of gay
She
men
was
are
a
good.
quiet and caring
Most-
woman,
most
well-known
bears
and
are
respected
good.
in her community.
They're
the
fat
Waltz family
and
weren't
hairy
like their
and
They had a special interest that
for some
differentiated
reason
them.
they
As
most
such,
of them
when
have
they
a good
moved to
heart
Ross
about them.
Township, they acquired an 8-acre property on Dogwood.
But not something that
It was the
roams
area's
around in the
natural beauty
goddamn
that first
mountains.
caught their attention, because they
Fuck
knew
all
the
that
place would
shit.
suit their
I would
needs.
never go near a
When
bear
they moved,
unless
the
I was in a
Waltzes brought
zoo.
their pets along, a variety of exotic animals.
And
As a
that
result, their
chicken
house
one,
was a true menagerie that
Actually, asking
included
for
lions,
that.
tigers,
She's asking for
cougars,
it.
leopards, servals, old English bulldogs, reptiles, and a black bear named Teddy, which the Waltzes
Teddy,
had bought
yeah.
in 2000. Everyone in the community
a
knew
teddy
about the
bear
animals,
is something that you
Some
get from a
feared them,
fucking
especially
claw
those with
machine,
young
not
children.
the woods.
but others saw the animals as a local curiosity and a source of fascination. Over the years, the family's neighbors would bring the children to Kellyanne.
Did he
and
seriously
Michael's
get it in a
house, and they would
pool?
visit the animals under Kellyanne's supervision. The animals were kept in secure, sturdy outdoor cages, and Kellyanne dedicated herself to their care. Over the
Oh,
years,
that she
as
has
the
a
animals aged and
she-
passed
she-
away, the menagerie
She's
dwindled
asking for it. She
until
just
only the
asking
mountain
for it.
lion, the tiger, and the bear Teddy remained.
She should have done. I mean, she
It was
might
a
as well have
quiet
just
Sunday
called the
when
suicide
Kellyanne Waltz
hotline at
entered
that
the
point.
15 by 15 foot steel and concrete cage of Teddy to clean it. Teddy was a 350
Oh,
pound
she done
bear,
went in the cage.
a creature
Oh,
that some would argue
yeah, that
needed to be
defeats the
free.
purpose of the cage.
Before entering the cage, Kellyanne attempted to distract the bear by throwing dog food to one side of the enclosure. This was her usual trick, and it worked every time like a charm. Except this time it didn't. Something went tragically wrong. Teddy, frustrated and possibly influenced by the onset of hibernation instincts, turned on Kellyanne and attacked her.
Yep.
Kellyanne's young children saw the whole thing. Terrified, they ran to their neighbor Scott Castone's house for help. Scott, who was a school teacher, initially thought Kellyanne was being attacked by a wild bear. But then, when he realized it was Teddy, Scott rushed to the Waltz property with his .357 caliber handgun. He found Teddy on top of Kellyanne, who seemed unconscious. When Teddy noticed Scott,
of course, she turned herself into bear food.
Scott couldn't take any chances. He was a father and he valued his life. As such, he shot the bear in the head, killing it instantly. Scott then rushed to Kellyanne's side. She was unconscious and badly hurt. He called 911.
He shot the bear in the middle of a meat
She was
of
declared
his
dead at
dinner.
the scene. The
His
incident
wife.
has left the community in shock, transforming what was once a place of wonder into one of mourning. After the incident, it was revealed that Michael Waltz's permits for keeping, selling, and displaying exotic animals had expired in June 2008,
I guess
more than a year
the
before the
husband wasn't
incident.
the only one eating
However,
the
the
wife
lapse
out.
was considered a minor violation and did not warrant the
God, I
removal
could
of
get
the
the
animals.
keeper road for it.
Inspections in 2007 had not revealed any issues, and the cages were deemed secure. Kellyanne Waltz's funeral service, held at New Covenant World Outreach Church, drew a large crowd of mourners.
I wonder if they got
reflecting the
half
profound
off the
impact she
funeral
had on those
service,
around her.
since half of it was
Friends and
eaten by a
neighbors remembered
bear.
her as a devoted mother, a passionate animal
I mean,
lover,
isn't there a
and a
discount if
cherished
half
member of
of
the
your,
community.
half your body's eaten?
Tim Conway from the
I mean,
Pennsylvania Game Commission
they don't have much to
criticized
work
the
with
decision
at the
to enter
funeral
the
parlor.
cage with a wild animal,
They should give you a discount.
emphasizing that such animals are not
And
domesticated.
if you
and
die
should
in
be
a house in
unpredictable.
a fire,
It was
and
July
you're planning on
17,
getting cremated, you
2006,
should also
in
get a
a serene
discount.
neighborhood of Salem
Half the
Township,
job's already
Pennsylvania.
done for them.
That day, Sandra L. Piovesa, a 50-year-old woman who had a pack of 9 wolf dog
I am
hybrids,
so fucking
entered the animal's caged enclosure.
I love it.
She loved
I
the
fucking
animals
love it.
dearly, but the hybrids hadn't been their usual selves for the past year or so. They were restless, more aggressive. They had even killed one of the pack's older members. Unbeknownst to her, Sandra was in danger.
That
The
bitch
next
has a
target
pack
an
of wolves in her
increasingly
house.
agitated
She's
pack.
asking for it
At
too.
that point, Sandra Piovesan had been keeping wolf dog hybrids for about a decade.
Mm-hmm.
They are unusual animals, crossbreeds between domestic dogs and wolves.
Yeah.
These animals often exhibit characteristics from both species, which means they inherit the natural aggression of wolves. While hybrids can sometimes be domesticated, they retain a significant amount of wild instincts,
I guarantee
making them
you.
unpredictable
She had
and
it
potentially
coming.
dangerous. As such,
Having a
experts
pack of
generally
wolves
advise
in your
against
house,
keeping
you're
wolf dog
asking
hybrids
for
as
it.
pets,
You're asking
because
to be
they
on
pose
this
a
list.
serious risk to humans, who can't always predict their behaviors and needs. Packs are even more dangerous, since each animal can and probably will fight for dominance.
I'd rather have a
But
pack
what
of
happens when the
animatronics.
dominant figure is
With
a
them.
human?
I know I'm
Sandra
safe.
was about to find out. The woman housed these hybrids in a large caged enclosure in her backyard, providing them with various toys and play structures, including a replica igloo, balls, and a plastic playhouse.
What the
The
fuck does
animals,
she
some
think
weighing
it
between
is?
70 to
teacup
100
noodle?
pounds and aged 7 to 8 years,
She don't.
had never been
She-
spayed
she's
or
great.
neutered,
I
leading
mean,
to several
hell, they
litters
might
of
as well
puppies
have
over
lost
the
her.
years.
And she's already brain
Despite
dead if she's
previous
got
warnings
some
from
fucking
humane
pack of
officers,
wolves living with her.
Piovesan continued to keep
Might
and
as well
breed the
be
hybrids,
the rest of her
seemingly
dead
unaware
too.
of the impending danger. She loved the animals with all her heart, but she did not possess
good
the
old
necessary
Darwin.
license
Snip,
from the
snip, goes the
Pennsylvania
gene
Game
pool.
Commission to own these animals. Instead, she circumvented this requirement by obtaining state dog licenses. According to some of her friends, Sandra's passion for these animals stemmed from her claimed Native American heritage. But not everybody loved these animals the way she did.
Yeah.
Instead, Sandra's neighbors were concerned and irritated by the presence
I'm
of the
passionate
hybrids.
about the funeral
Sandra
service
would
industry and all
sometimes
that.
feed roadkill
You
to
don't
the
see
pack,
me
and
wanting
the
to be
smell
buried
was more than
alive. Well,
unpleasant.
I can't be buried alive. I
Even
mean,
more,
if you
rumor
Google
had
my
it that the animals were
me up
unvaccinated
on
against rabies and
finders, it
neutered.
says I'm dead already,
To
so
top things off,
I
the
lose
animals seemed
credibility
stressed
here.
and restless.
And that's
Piovesan's
probably why I
dedication
have
to
such
her
a
wolf
passion
dogs
for
was
them.
evident to
Because
those
I'm
who knew
already
her.
dead.
She often entered the pen to feed them,
Will you look at this
and
shit?
even invited
I'm gonna pull
visitors
this
to
out for
observe
you.
the animals, treating them as beloved pets. However, her supervisor, Connie Griswold, and others close to her were unaware of the true
I'm gonna
nature
blow
of these
y'all's mind.
animals until her untimely death. On the morning of July 17th, 2006, Sandra was supposed to meet her daughter, Crystal, for breakfast. When she failed to do so, Crystal visited Sandra's home, only to discover Sandra's lifeless body within the enclosure. It was a gruesome scene. It appeared that Sandra had suffered extensive injuries from bites and claws and serious blood loss, which ultimately led to her death. When state police officers arrived at the scene, they noticed the wolf dogs were visibly agitated by their presence, moving in unison along the fence line of their enclosure, as if they wanted to attack. Given the potential danger, authorities decided to tranquilize and then euthanize all the animals to safely retrieve Piovesan's body. The autopsy, conducted by Dr. Cyril H. Wecht, confirmed that Sandra had died from the injuries inflicted by her pets. For the most part, those who knew Sandra were saddened by her death, but not shocked. Some of her friends had warned her about the potential risks.
Let me put this
One
on.
of Sandra's closest friends, Gallagher, speculated that the attack might have been triggered by a struggle for dominance within the pack, with one animal or more attempting to assert leadership over Sandra. The incident has underscored the critical need for stricter regulations and greater public awareness regarding the ownership of wolf dogs.
I don't know if anybody knows that, but yeah, I'm dead.
On September 26, 2012,
yes, that is me.
Terry Vance Garner,
I was the only person still in Ethical Heights.
went out to feed his
Not
many
anymore, I'm
hogs,
dead.
something he did multiple times a day.
Ain't that great? You're getting a live stream from a dead guy.
Terry failed to return home. When his family went looking for him, they were met with a gruesome sight. Right
Welcome to my wicked world.
Terry Vance Garner was a well-known figure in his
No
community.
damn wonder I got a twisted
Described by
sense of
his older
humor.
brother Michael as a good-hearted guy.
At least I don't have a craving for human flesh and brains.
His time during the war left him with deep psychological scars. Terry suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. He found solace in his farm and his animals, which were like a therapeutic
zombies
sanctuary
are just
for
like
him.
everybody else.
Overall, the animals in the farm were his life,
We don't
providing
need
him with a
brains and
sense
all
of
that.
purpose and
That's
peace.
mythological.
Garner's dedication to his farm and
nonsense.
animals was evident in his daily routine and interactions with the livestock. Despite an incident where a hog had bitten him after he accidentally stepped on a piglet,
What the fuck?
proving his compassionate nature. Domestic hogs are not as aggressive as their feral counterparts, but they can pose significant dangers under certain circumstances. They have powerful jaws with strong teeth and are omnivorous, which means they can and will eat meat. Large adult hogs, such as those on Gordon's farm, can weigh up to 700 pounds or more. Their sheer size and strength can make them dangerous, especially if they feel threatened or agitated. On the fateful day, Garner went out to feed his hogs but did not return. Hours later, a family member discovered his dentures and fragments of his body in the hog. They had to assume the rest of Terry's remains had been consumed by the hogs. Many of Terry's hogs were indeed huge, and it wasn't hard to imagine them inflicting serious injuries or even death to an unlucky person. Authorities were called upon the gruesome discovery, and the investigation was launched. The circumstances were, however, strange enough to make the investigation difficult. Coos County District Attorney Paul Frazier indicated that Terry might have suffered a medical emergency, such as a heart attack, which could have caused him to fall, making him vulnerable to the hogs. The alternative was sinister, something out of a horror movie. Terry could have been intentionally knocked over by the animals, leading to the fatal attack. Given the unusual nature of the case, foul play was not ruled out, although there was no direct evidence pointing to it. A pathologist was unable to determine the precise cause or manner of death, prompting further analysis by a forensic anthropologist at the University of Oregon. But there was a lack of definitive answers. As such, Terry's family had to deal not only with the man's death, but also with the possibility that they would never find out what really happened. Garner's life and untimely death underscore the unpredictable nature of working with livestock and the need for caution and respect when interacting with large animals, domesticated or not. On April 17, 2018, Jennifer Reardon was on board Southwest Airlines Flight 1380, seated by a window as the plane cruised above Pennsylvania. She was flying from New York City to Dallas. It was a routine flight, but an unexpected and tragic turn changed everything. Jennifer Reardon, a 43-year-old from Albuquerque, was known for her dedication to her family, career, and community. As Vice President of Community Relations at Wells Fargo in Albuquerque, she managed over 1,000 employees' volunteer efforts and contributed significantly to various philanthropic causes across the Southwest. Jennifer was a respected leader, a wife, and a mother of two, and she was returning home to her family when she boarded Flight 1380 on April 17, 2018. However, about 20 minutes into the journey, the otherwise uneventful flight took a turn when a catastrophic event sent shockwaves through the cabin and marked a tragic chapter in U.S. aviation history. The trouble began when one of the plane's engine fan blades suddenly fractured. The fan blade, having endured over 32,000 flights, succumbed to metal fatigue, an issue overlooked during previous inspections. The fan blade's failure set off a disastrous chain reaction as the engine cover disintegrated, sending pieces of shrapnel flying with explosive force. Some of this debris struck the fuselage, ultimately smashing through the plexiglass window near Jennifer's seat.
Oh dear God.
This breach caused a rapid decompression, sucking Jennifer partially out of the broken window. As flight attendants
She was a leader. Yeah, follow me out the plane window.
They spotted Jennifer with her torso, head, and arm outside the plane, while the rest of the plane remained strapped inside her laptop.
I'm going to hell. There's a special place in hell reserved for me. Anybody go there, I'll have a drink ready for you.
One reaching out the window to secure her shoulder. Amid the chaotic scene, with oxygen masks deployed and smoke filling the cabin, they fought to pull Jennifer back inside. With Jennifer now inside the plane,
He was a leader.
the two flight
Follow me
attendants
out
asked
the
for medical
plane
volunteers. A paramedic and a nurse took over
Yeah,
the
I'm
rescue
going to
operation.
hell.
They attempted to use a defibrillator, but it indicated there was no shock.
Ah, God, hates
As
gay
such, they
people
took
in
turns
it.
at CPR in hopes
I
of
was born
reviving
with
Jennifer.
a long-way
But
ticket to
Jennifer's
hell.
injuries proved too extensive.
Might as well make the
The
most of
severity
it.
of the impact meant survival was nearly impossible.
Although,
As the
Satan's
tragedy
afraid of
unfolded,
me
the
overthrowing
pilots
him.
worked to control the jet, which
That's
had
why I'm
sharply
still
tilted
on
to the left due to
after
the
I
explosion's
became
impact.
deceased.
The entire cabin was gripped with fear as the plane descended
Yes, he's
rapidly to an
intimidating.
altitude where passengers could breathe without the masks. The pilot skillfully guided the aircraft to an emergency landing
Couldn't
in
happen to a
Philadelphia
better guy.
Airport, bringing the flight's remaining 144 passengers and 5 crew members to safety. Jennifer Reardon was tragically dead, having sustained severe blunt force trauma injuries to her head, neck, and torso from both the shrapnel and the plane's
God,
fuselage.
why do you have to call her a
Her
leader?
death marked the first fatal in-flight accident on a U.S. airline in nearly a decade. The incident prompted an in-depth investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, which focused on
I am a
fan
twisted
blade
little
and the
bastard.
safety mechanisms designed to contain such an event. The NTSB hearing revealed that the blade that fractured was last inspected in 2012, using
Damn it, I
techniques
feel
that were
so
inadequate
bad.
to detect the metal fatigue.
I'm going to hell.
The engine manufacturer had initially considered fan blades to have no lifetime.
Oh, I should not
believing
find that
them to be virtually
hilarious.
indestructible.
But I
In
do.
response to the accident, CFM recommended more advanced inspection methods, including ultrasound and electrical current testing, which could more accurately detect microscopic fractures. These inspections, now mandatory, have already led to the replacement of several blades on similar engines showing signs of fatigue. In a statement, Jennifer's husband, Michael Reardon, expressed his hope that lessons from the incident would prevent future tragedies. Jennifer's colleagues and community members remembered her as a compassionate leader who inspired others to give back. In memory of Jennifer, the Reardon family founded the Jennifer Reardon Foundation, aimed at continuing her legacy of kindness and community service. It was the summer of 2011. Chris Staniforth had spent countless hours doing what he loved most, gaming. Chris was no stranger to losing himself in his favorite virtual worlds, sometimes until the early hours. That particular night, though, was different, and the following day would turn devastating. What began as a normal morning for the young gamer quickly spiraled into tragedy, and within hours, his family's lives would be changed forever. Chris, a 20-year-old from Sheffield, England, was well known to his family and friends as a dedicated gamer. He could often be found sitting in front of his Xbox, deeply engrossed in games like Halo, sometimes for up to 12 hours straight. His passion for gaming was more than just a hobby. It was also Chris's aspiration. He had recently been accepted into a game design program at Leicester University, where he hoped to turn his love of gaming into a career. His father, David Staniforth, recalled how Chris had lived for his Xbox and how his son's dream had always been to create worlds just like the ones he'd enjoyed exploring. It was that unrelenting commitment to gaming that led Chris to spend hours on end sitting at his desk, rarely taking breaks or moving around. What his family and even Chris himself were unaware of was the silent, hidden danger lurking in his prolonged inactivity. One night in 2011, Chris had likely stayed up all night, as he had many times before, absorbed in gaming. By morning, he was scheduled to visit a local job center with a friend to discuss career opportunities, a small step toward securing a future he had been working toward. However, that morning, while waiting outside the job center, he felt an unfamiliar tightness in his chest. His friend later recalled that Chris had been experiencing odd pains, but hadn't thought much of them. Chris then dropped a pack of gum. He bent down to pick it up and suddenly began convulsing. Panicked, his friend called for an ambulance.
What a fucking weakling. I am 35 years old. This bastard was 20. And he did nothing but this. Playing games. Man, I have played more than games for a longer period of time in my 35th year on this earth. I'm telling you, that's some bullshit. That is absolute horseshit right there. You know why? And drugs were involved with this one. I have smoked crystal meth and had sex, okay, for like, I don't know, 13 hours? 12 hours, 13 hours. And when my dude left, I would continue going at it solo style. And I would go for days, okay, days.
David, who had always known Chris as a young
and I
man
wouldn't
with
stop
no
for anything. That explains some of my absences from live streams, by the way. What a weekend.
About his son's case, highlighting the reality
I got 15 years on his ass.
Travel or any sedentary activity.
I don't know, some people just... Oh, you know why?
He shared his heart.
You know why that hasn't affected me or phased me in the least? Because this one's already gone. Look me up on People Finders, honey. I'm already deceased. Loving the dead laugh.
Blame on the industry or the technology itself. Instead, he focused on raising awareness about the importance of taking breaks, moving around, and understanding the risks of sitting for extended periods.
Welcome to my afterlife, baby. Welcome to the afterlife.
Games, David advised other parents. They love doing it. It's great for them.
I love doing it too. That's why I have a guy over at least once every 3 weeks.
It was January 4th, 1967.
Straight from the body in the mind.
Lake District, England. Donald Campbell, a 45-year-old speed
enthusiast, just because I'm already dead doesn't mean I can't exercise my mind and body a little.
Bluebird K7.
I mean, I still have
Campbell
a pulse.
Was attempting to break his own world water speed record, a feat he had accomplished 7 times before. On this clear, cold morning, the stakes were high and the pressure was intense. Campbell had faced 9 weeks of bad weather and engine failures, but today seemed promising.
Which is funny because I volunteered at the church.
Steel-framed, aluminum-bodied hydroplane.
I'm doing pretty damn good for a good guy.
Designed by Ken and Lou Norris, it housed a Metropolitan Vickers barrel axial flow turbojet engine capable of producing 3,500 pounds of thrust.
You know what? I've been neglecting
the boat, with its distinctive pickle fork layout, was unlike any other, and it brought Campbell many successes on the water. At 8:45 a.m., with the lake's surface appearing smooth and the hills around it capped with snow, Bluebird was launched. Campbell, known for his cool demeanor, gave a thumbs up before starting his first run. Heading south, he averaged 297 miles per hour over the measured kilometer. To break the record,
I know why I'm in such a cheerful mood. I had 4 Dr. Peppers before I got on you. And a pizza.
Pause, Campbell began his second attempt.
Pizza's always good.
As Bluebird sped northward,
who can be upset about anything when they're eating a pizza?
Over the radio. She's trapping, indicating the boat was moving swiftly. Moments later,
trapping?
Full power, followed by, the water is not good, I can't see much. His final words were
that would be a word to describe what I do.
At more than 300 miles per hour, Bluebird's nose lifted, tipping the boat backward. It flipped forward 50 feet into the air.
He's trapping again. I can hear the poor plane.
Spray rose and then fell, and Bluebird was gone. Divers attempted to recover Campbell's body from the depths of Coniston water, but they lacked sufficient equipment. Only some plastic buoyancy bags and the 2 sponsons were retrieved. The search
Yeah,
for
I'll
Campbell's
be
body
shrimping
would
with some
resume
old
the next day with better equipment.
I like them
That
old.
evening, Tonya Byrne,
I'm
Campbell's
dead.
wife
What
and
do
a
I
cabaret
do?
artist, arrived from London filled with grief and disbelief.
I
Campbell had
think it's
always
time for
known the
another
risks
doctor.
of the high-speed pursuits. He had often said that if Bluebird's nose lifted even slightly, disaster would follow. The accident occurred
Did he
just
have a
200
big one?
yards from the end of the measured kilometer, at a speed too great for Bluebird to handle safely. Campbell's pursuit of a new record ended tragically, but he still held the record at 276.38 miles per hour, set in Australia in 1964. Donald Campbell's legacy was more than just his records. He was the son of Sir
I'm
Malcolm Campbell,
decomposing already.
another speed record holder, and had spent his life chasing speed on both land and water. His journey began in 1949 when he attempted to break records using his father's boat, Bluebird K4. Despite early failures, Campbell's determination never wavered. In 1953, Campbell developed the Bluebird K7, the world's first successful jet boat. Between 1955
Yeah, we'll put
and
the animals in the
1964,
ark 2 by
he set
2.
7 world water speed
So?
records, pushing the limits of what was possible. His
I'm
1955 record at Ullswater was the first to exceed 200 miles per hour, and his subsequent records at Coniston Water became annual highlights. Campbell's ambition also led him to attempt the land speed record in Australia, where he faced numerous challenges, but achieved a new record in 1964. Throughout his career, Bluebird K7 underwent many modifications to improve stability and speed, reflecting Campbell's relentless pursuit of perfection. After the tragic crash in 1967, Bluebird K7 lay submerged in Coniston Water for decades. In 2001, the wreckage and Campbell's body were finally recovered. The hydroplane underwent a careful restoration by Tyneside engineer Bill Smith, sparking a lengthy legal battle over its ownership. In 2018, Bluebird K7 returned to the water in Scotland, reaching speeds of 150 miles per hour. Thousands of spectators, including Campbell's daughter Gina, watched as the restored craft took to the water once more.
They restored it after it was
marked a
underwater?
significant milestone in the hydroplane's journey. The Ruskin Museum in Coniston now houses Bluebird K7, and plans are underway to run the boat on Coniston Water again. The museum, which built a special wing for Bluebird, aims to honor Campbell's legacy and his connection to the local community. It was August 27, 2019, in Oregon's Alvord Desert. Jessie Combs, a 39-year-old American jet car speed racer, known by fans as the fastest woman on 4 wheels, was attempting to break a land speed record. Jessie had always been passionate about speed and pushing the limits.
I'm the fastest man in St.
On this
Louis.
day, she was determined to make history
I don't
by
even need to
surpassing
know
the
your
record
name,
set
but I'll
by
have you in my
Steve Reed
bed.
in 1976. But this attempt would be her last. Jessie was a prominent figure in the niche sport of jet car racing. Her dream was to become the fastest woman on Earth, a goal she had been chasing since 2012. She was already the fastest woman on 4 wheels, having set a record of 641 kilometers per hour
I'm the
in
fastest
2013.
guy with 2 spread
However,
legs.
mechanical problems had prevented her from achieving official recognition for faster runs. On this day, Jessie aimed to break the 823 kilometer per hour record set by O'Neill. She woke up to an alarm that declared, "Let's make history," and headed to the dry lake bed in Oregon's Alvord Desert with her team. Jessie was part of the North American Eagle, or NAE, project, an ambitious endeavor. The team had converted a Lockheed F-104 Starfighter jet plane into a car, capable of incredible speeds, thanks to its 52,000 horsepower jet engine. Jessie's boyfriend and teammate, Terry Madden, was with her. He documented the day with photos and videos, capturing Jessie's excitement and determination. Despite several successful runs earlier, Jessie had voiced concerns about safety. She and Madden had planned to go to a house in Lake Tahoe the next night. But she decided to make one last afternoon run to back up her record, and then walk away from it for good. As Jessie made her final run, the car reached an incredible speed of 841.338 kilometers per hour, surpassing the previous record. However, tragedy struck when the front wheel assembly failed. As Jessie decelerated just past the end of the run, the assembly came apart, and debris entered the electronics and mechanical bay behind her, causing a catastrophic crash. Jessie was pronounced dead at the scene. The exact details of the crash were still unknown, but the Harney County Sheriff's Office confirmed the death. Terry Madden was the first to arrive at the scene. He later shared his grief on Instagram, revealing that they had done everything possible to save her. Jessie Combs' death was a significant loss to the racing community. She was known not only for her racing achievements, but also for her work as a leather fabricator and television personality. She had appeared on shows like Extreme 4x4, Overhauling, and Mythbusters. Her enthusiastic personality, bright smile, and relentless pursuit of her dreams inspired many, especially young girls and women. In the days following her death, tributes poured in from fans, friends, and colleagues. Her family released a statement, remembering her bright smile, positivity, and tenacious pursuit of the fulfillment of her dreams. They emphasized how she lived fearlessly and left an impact on everyone who knew her. Jessie's goal to become the fastest woman on Earth was recognized by Guinness World Records after her passing. They updated their website, acknowledging her new mark of 841.338 kilometers per hour. Jessie became the first person to break the record in over 40 years. Madden's tribute to Jessie was heartfelt. He posted a collage of photos and videos of their time together, expressing how proud he was of her. He mentioned that despite the pain of losing her, he would continue to honor her legacy and do good with her memory.
Oh, my.
It was April 3rd, 2014 in Eloy, Arizona, about 65 miles south of Phoenix. The desert sky was clear with perfect weather for skydiving. On this day, a group of 220
I want to go skydiving. That's the only thing left on my bucket list. The only
Arizona, one of the most renowned skydiving facilities in the United States. They had one
I've been
to
parasailing
break the
before. That was
world
fun.
record for the largest number of people completing 2 aerial formations before deploying their parachutes. Among these skydivers was Diana Paris, a 46-year-old experienced skydiver from Berlin, Germany. Diana had completed 1,500 jumps over her career, making her an experienced veteran in the skydiving community. She was part of an elite group known as the World Team, which had been preparing for this record-breaking attempt for the past 18 months. The plan was simple, yet incredibly complex. Jump from 18,000 feet, form a shape in the sky, break apart, form another shape, and then deploy their parachutes. As the clock struck 7:30 a.m., the skydivers were ready. They wore colorful jumpsuits and oxygen masks, necessary for the high-altitude jump. The adrenaline was intense as they boarded the planes, each one carrying a group of skydivers. The aircraft climbed higher and higher, reaching the designated altitude. The jump was about to begin. The signal was given, and one by one the skydivers leaped out of the planes.
Did not deploy.
Diana Paris was among them. The skydivers spread out, accelerating to speeds of over 100 miles per hour as they began their free fall. The first formation came together smoothly. A kaleidoscope of colors in the sky. The precision and skill required for such a feat were immense, but these were experienced professionals. Then it was time for the second formation. The skydivers separated briefly before coming together again. Everything seemed to be going according to plan until disaster struck. Diana's main parachute failed to deploy properly.
Damn, I'm good.
In skydiving, every second counts. There is a narrow window of time to release the main parachute.
I swear I
and if
didn't
it
see
fails,
this before.
to deploy the reserve parachute. For Diana, this window closed too quickly. Her malfunctioning parachute was released too low to the ground, not allowing enough time for the reserve parachute to fully open. Diana plummeted toward the ground. Despite the best efforts of the emergency procedures, there was nothing that could be done. At 7:42 a.m., authorities responded to a call about a skydiving accident. Diana Paris was declared dead at the scene.
Of course, your parachute doesn't deploy. You're about a mile in the fucking sky. You're going to turn into a fucking flapjack.
The malfunctioning parachute was released too low to allow the reserve parachute to fully open, the statement read. It was clear that the accident had nothing to do with the size of the group or the weather conditions. The equipment had failed at the worst possible moment. Diana's husband, who was present at the event, was devastated. He told the police that Diana was an experienced skydiver, well-versed in the risks and safety measures of the sport. This wasn't her first jump, and it certainly wasn't her first group formation attempt.
No, but it was her last.
An experienced skydiver could fall victim to a malfunctioning parachute shows a lot
you can
about
only
the risks
fuck up
involved in
skydiving one time.
The World Team, despite their grief, decided to honor Diana's memory in the best way they knew how, by continuing their mission to break the world record. They held a meeting, filled with tears and hugs, and agreed to proceed with the record attempt. However, they would do so with one significant change. Instead of a 222-way formation, It would now be a 221-way formation, with Diana's slot left open in her honor. This missing man formation was a tribute to their fallen friend, a way to keep her spirit alive in the skies she loved so much. On the day of the special jump, the atmosphere was heavy with emotion. Skydivers gathered, many of them friends and colleagues of Diana. They knew the risks, but they also knew the passion that drove them to jump out of planes and defy gravity. They took to the skies once more, their hearts heavy but their determination strong. The formation came together beautifully with the empty slot. The investigation into the accident was thorough. The Eloy Police Department and the Federal Aviation Administration looked into the malfunctioning parachute. They wanted to understand what had gone wrong and how it could be prevented in the future. The results of the investigation confirmed what was already suspected. The malfunction was an unfortunate mishap, unrelated to any external factors like the weather or the aircraft.
Him and I were talking about
it was a reminder that even the most experienced skydivers are at the mercy of their equipment. It was March 5th, 2019, in the quiet village of Stekov, located in eastern Czech Republic. Michael Prysek, a 34-year-old local resident, entered his pet lion's enclosure for unknown reasons.
You're a dumbass. You had a pet lion, you went to the enclosure. You're a dumbass.
A grim end to his hobby of breeding dangerous predators in his backyard. But what happened?
You look like a dumbass,
well known in his village for his unconventional choice of pets. It's safe to say that his passion made him unpopular.
Man,
Locals
if
feared
you
his
want to
enemies.
have an
But
unconventional
Michal was hell-bent on having his way
Get a
and
fucking
keeping his beloved
octopus like I
exotic
did
pets,
when I was in high
a
school.
lion and a lioness. He had purchased the male lion 3 years prior from Slovakia. The lioness was acquired 2 years after that, in 2018. Michal kept these lions in
Make sure
homemade
it's not a
cages
blue
on his
ring
property,
octopus.
apparently for breeding
Listen, the
purposes.
bitches are dead.
Despite numerous complaints from concerned neighbors and fines from local authorities for lacking the necessary permits and building permissions, Michal continued to keep and breed these dangerous animals. To top things off, he would often take the lions out on walks in his neighborhood. As such, incidents involving the lions were not uncommon. In June 2018, the community was further enraged when a cyclist collided with Prosek's lioness while he was taking her for a walk on a leash. The cyclist was injured and required hospital treatment. But the incident was classified as a traffic accident after police intervention. It didn't matter to Michal that his whole community wanted him to give up his pets, and there was little that authorities could do about the matter. They had previously fined Prosek for illegal breeding and constructing enclosures without proper permits. But their efforts to remove the animals legally were hampered by a lack of alternative facilities for the lions and the absence of evidence suggesting animal cruelty. As such, the situation was at a stalemate because Michal refused access to his property and the authorities were unable to take further action under existing laws. But it all changed on a fateful Tuesday morning. The maintenance of lions in captivity, especially in non-professional settings, is a huge risk, something Michal learned in the worst possible way. It was about 7 a.m. when Michal Prasek's father discovered his son's lifeless body inside the male lion's cage.
Yeah,
but what happened? It appeared that the cage was locked from the inside. This meant that 34-year-old Michal had voluntarily entered and then found himself trapped. Michal's father
turned himself into Meow Mix.
When the police arrived, however, they were faced with a serious matter. In order to reach and recover Michal's lifeless body, they needed to face the predators. And while lions are part of the big cat family, they are far from their domesticated cousins. Lions are large carnivores. They are known for their strength and their hunting prowess. They are apex predators, meaning they are at the top of the food chain. As such, unarmed humans pose little threat to these powerful animals.
Meow, 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 meow.
To ensure the safety of the responders and to access the victim, the police made the difficult decision to shoot both lions. A police spokesperson later stated that the action was absolutely necessary. Prasek's death
I'm going to LA,
right? By a doctor who arrived at the scene shortly after the police. His body was then sent for an autopsy to confirm the exact cause of death. As it turned out, the lioness was pregnant at the time, adding a further layer of tragedy to the incident. Despite the tragedy, some in the village were able to breathe more easily after the incident. Zdekov Mayor Tomas Kokorek remarked that this tragic incident might finally bring about a resolution to the long-standing issue. As a result of Michal's death, the Czech government then indicated that it was considering changes to the laws regulating the ownership and breeding of predatory animals in order to prevent similar situations in the future. At least at the time, the Czech Republic was a hub for illegal wildlife smuggling. On August 25, 2017, 31-year-old snake enthusiast Dan Brandon was in his bedroom in his church Crookham, Hampshire home.
You dumbass, you have a snake? Of course.
Dan was enjoying some time with his beloved pets, 10 snakes and 12 tarantulas. But then something happened. His parents heard a light crash and Dan failed to answer their calls. When they opened his bedroom door, they were met with a horrifying sight. But what had happened? And could it have been prevented? Dan Brandon was known for his love of exotic animals, owning 10 snakes and 12 tarantulas. He had been keeping reptiles since he was 15 years old, so for 16 years. Dan was an experienced handler who knew the needs of each and every one of his pets. He loved his pets, but he had a particular bond with Tiny, an African rock python he had raised since it was small enough to fit in the palm of his hand. African rock pythons are among the largest snake species, known for their immense strength and occasional temperamental nature. They are non-venomous constrictors that kill their prey by coiling around.
Yeah, he wanted a hug from Tiny, I guess.
While they can become familiar with their handlers, they do not exhibit affection in the same way domestic pets do. These snakes are driven by instinct, which can sometimes lead to dangerous interactions with humans.
I'm driven by instinct too. I see a snake, I run.
Despite the fact
I
that she was an
fucking
8-foot
book
snake.
it.
Tiny's size and strength made her more unpredictable compared to his other pets. Despite occasional aggressive behaviors like hissing and pretending to strike, Brandon never felt threatened by Tiny. In recent times, however, he had stopped putting Tiny around his neck. Despite his experience and careful handling, his passion for these
Putting a
animals
fucking
led to a
constrictor
tragic
around your
accident.
neck? Wouldn't it be easier just to go get a noose?
2017, and Babs Brandon, Dan's mother, was cooking dinner. Suddenly, she heard a crash from her son's bedroom, but assumed...
Oh, hell no. She let him live with her
At about
and with the
7:15 that
snake?
evening,
Oh,
Babs
I
noticed
would
that
throw
dinner was
my
ready.
son out.
But Dan didn't come down.
I wouldn't throw. If he came out as
Check on
gay, fine.
Once
Let
again,
him bring a man over, have all the
upon
sex they
entering
want in
her
the
son's
bedroom.
room,
They
Babs
can be
found him
loud
lying
for all I
face down
care.
on the floor.
I wouldn't
He
mind.
was a little cold to the
But don't
touch.
ever bring a snake in my
Babs
house. I'll throw your ass
noticed
out.
something.
You and your fucking
Tiny,
constrictor.
Dan's African rock python, was missing from
I'll
her
draw the
area.
line.
Paramedics were called,
I
but
have
were
a son,
unable to
fine.
save Dan.
Bring a guy over.
Tiny
Have an
was later
orgy
found
for all
coiled
I
up and hidden
care.
under a box
We
in
can
the room.
argue
Dan's
over who
parents
has
were
the
shocked
cutest
and looking for
boyfriend.
answers.
But you bring a
Inquest later
snake in
revealed
here
that
that's
Dan
not
had died
in
of
somebody's
asphyxiation,
trousers. I'm
with
throwing your ass
pathologist
out.
Dr. Adnan Al-Badri noting a hemorrhage behind one eye, burst blood vessels, and congested lungs. There were no bite marks or puncture wounds on Dan's body, nor specific signs on his neck muscles, indicating that the death was not due to aggression. Coroner Andrew Bradley concluded that Tiny had likely coiled around Dan either out of engagement or as a reaction to
Yeah, I'll say it's out of
leading to
engagement.
accidental
He had a dinner engagement.
Professor John
his
Cooper,
owner.
a reptile expert, confirmed that Dan was an experienced handler who would have known how to unwrap a python. Cooper examined Tiny and noted no scratches on his
Unwrap
skin
a
that would
python?
indicate a struggle.
What the fuck is it,
reinforcing
a
the theory
Christmas
that the
present?
incident was not aggressive, but rather a tragic misadventure. He emphasized that while African rock pythons can recognize their handlers, their actions are not based on affection, but on
Yeah,
instinctual
recognize
response.
them all right.
The
Recognize them as
tragedy
a
highlighted
nice
the inherent
steak
risk of keeping
tartare.
large constrictor snakes as pets. Despite Dan's experience and care, the unpredictable nature of such animals can lead to fatal consequences.
Although after
Dan's
seeing him,
family
I'd
sought answers
recognize
to their
him as
questions.
something to eat
But
too.
the exact circumstances
I wouldn't
leading
mind
to
eating
Dan's
that
death
guy
may never
out.
be fully understood, especially since some experts doubted
Tiny
that
had the
Tiny
right
was
idea.
responsible for her owner's death, especially considering that evidence was
He is
indeed
cute.
limited.
I'd wrap
In
myself
November
around him too and eat
2018,
him.
Elena Struthers Gardner was at home in Dorset, England, preparing to have a
Homemaker's
drink.
getting a little horny.
It was a quiet evening, but what followed next was
They
a
don't call me
tragic
the horny
accident
homemaker for
involving a
nothing.
seemingly harmless household item. Elena, known as Lena to those close to her, was 60 years old and lived in Broadstone, Dorset, England. Over the years, the woman had come to know both success and struggle. Once an accomplished equestrian, she had dedicated much of her youth to the competitive equestrian world. She had trained in eventing, show jumping, and dressage, and
Oh,
even
hell,
worked
save
with
a horse,
national
ride a
hunt horses
cowboy.
in Newbury, Berkshire. She had a promising career ahead of her. However, her dreams were shattered by a devastating accident at the age of 21 when a riding mishap left her with severe spinal injuries. This traumatic event marked the beginning of a long battle with chronic pain and mobility issues. Following her accident, Elena endured multiple fractures to her lumbar spine, leading to scoliosis and intense, constant pain. Her mobility became compromised, and she was frequently prone to sudden collapses, described by her wife Mandy Struthers Gardner as falling like a sack of potatoes. The years of pain management had taken a toll on her, and she required high doses of fentanyl to cope. As her medication levels were later reduced, she developed a dependency on alcohol. By the time of her death, she was reportedly drinking around half a liter of vodka daily, often mixed with orange juice in a mason jar with a screw-top lid, a habit that led to the fatal accident. On November 22, 2018, Elena was in her kitchen, holding a mason jar style.
Oh, I heard about this one.
Straw. Suddenly, Elena collapsed, and the 10-inch stainless steel straw fixed in place by the screw-top lid became a lethal weapon. The metal straw entered Elena's left eye socket and pierced her brain. Her wife Mandy, who was home at the time,
you don't use metal straws for drinking. Use them for a crack pipe.
Lying face down, Elena was making unusual gurgling sounds, and Mandy, noticing the straw protruding from her head, immediately called for an ambulance. Paramedics rushed her to Southampton General Hospital, but the severity of her injuries left little hope for recovery. Specialists informed Mandy that Elena's injuries were too severe, and the following day, her life support was turned off. Forensic examination of the incident was
use a plastic straw. Paper straws will dissolve as you drink.
That the straw had entered through
metal
Elena's
straws
left
turn
eyelid
into
and
weapons.
pierced the brainstem. A critical
Plastic
area
is the way
responsible
to
for
go.
functions such as
It's
breathing.
always been the way to go.
The
Why are
investigation
they
into Elena's
tweaking
death
with all
highlighted the
these
rare but significant dangers
things that are just
associated with
perfect?
metal drinking
Oh,
straws.
it's better for the
Assistant
environment.
Coroner Brendan Allen
Yeah, well,
issued a warning,
it's not better
emphasizing
for
the
me.
risks of using fixed metal straws
I'll
and
give
rigid
me my
lids.
plastic
With
straw,
no give
damn
or
it.
flexibility, the metal straw could
I don't
not
care
move
if a sea
upon
turtle
impact,
chokes to death on
resulting
it.
in
I ain't gonna
catastrophic
throw it in the
injuries.
fucking ocean.
Great care
I'm
should
gonna
be
throw it in
taken
the trash
when using these
can.
metal straws,
Where it
Allen
belongs
stated,
when I'm done.
stressing that they should never be fixed in place by lids or similar devices. Had the lid not held the straw stationary, it likely would have dislodged rather than impaled her eye. However, there wasn't sufficient evidence to explain how Elena came to fall. There was no alcohol in her system at the moment of the accident, nor could the assistant coroner conclude that any reduction in fentanyl could have caused Lena's fall. The aftermath of Elena's death left her wife and loved ones grappling with shock and grief.
Somebody call the fire
Mandy spoke of
department,
the
because honey,
profound loss,
I'm on
describing Elena
fire.
as someone taken far too early. In her grief, Mandy has expressed her hope that others would heed the tragic lesson in Elena's story.
That's right,
She
get
remarked
plastic
on the
straws.
dangers
Heed
of
that
these
lesson.
straws, particularly for individuals with mobility issues or young children.
Because who the
It
fuck
was June 8th,
is gonna
2014.
get done with their straw and take it
Grand
all the way
Adams
out to
Sunday
the
morning
ocean and
began
throw it
like
in there
any
for an
other,
animal?
with the 17-year-old just waking up at his home in South Shields. But within moments, what should have been an ordinary day took a dramatic and tragic turn, leaving his family and community in shock.
What happened with this
Grant was more than
dumbass?
just a teenager. He was a soon-to-be father,
Teenagers
anticipating the
should
arrival of his daughter
he
with
is
his
a
girlfriend,
dumbass.
Shauna Gardner, age 16, who was 7 months pregnant. He had
Dumbass.
already picked a name for his little girl, Rakia. Grant's life, though young, was filled with hopes and dreams for the future. He had recently purchased
really,
his
if
first
you're
car
knocking
and was
somebody up
taking
at
driving
16.
lessons. His 18th birthday was approaching, and with it, the promise of a new chapter. Grant's family included his mother, 37-year-old Amanda Smedley, who he shared his home with, and his sister, 20-year-old Natasha, who had a young daughter herself. The tragedy that struck their family happened swiftly. Early on that quiet Sunday, Grant had just stepped out of bed when he tripped over a wire in his third-floor bedroom. In a tragic stroke of fate, he lost his balance and fell onto a freestanding sunbed his mother had been storing in his room. The impact was catastrophic. One of the glass UV tubes shattered, and a sharp fragment pierced his jugular vein in 2 places. Disoriented and gravely injured, Grant attempted to pull the glass shard from his neck in shock, further aggravating the injury, and made his way toward the stairs in a desperate attempt to find help. However, the injury proved too severe, and he collapsed at the bottom of the stairs, where his mother soon found him in a pool of blood. Amanda, his mother, heard the thuds from upstairs and immediately rushed to her son, only to find him bleeding heavily.
That's why you don't put wires around your fucking
partner
bed.
attempted to stem the bleeding until
Don't
paramedics
cause
arrived.
a tripping hazard on your
Emergency
floor.
services, including the Great North Air Ambulance, responded rapidly, arriving within minutes to treat Grant at the scene at about 9
To
a.m. that
prevent
Sunday morning.
disaster,
He
eliminate
was
the
airlifted
things
to
that could
Newcastle's
cause
Royal
it.
Victoria Infirmary in critical condition.
See, I live alone.
But
I
the
gotta
damage
have
was
all
too
the
extensive.
necessary precautions.
Despite the efforts of
I mean,
medical
I don't
professionals,
mind
Grant
having
succumbed to
my
his
neighbors
injuries on
irritated
June
with the
9,
sounds of porn,
2014.
but I'm not gonna be
The
sitting
sudden
here
tragic
turning myself
loss
into
left Grant's
soup and
family and
dripping
friends
through
devastated.
onto
For his girlfriend,
the neighbor's
Shauna,
carpet
the
below.
shock was unimaginable. She
I
shared
want
her
to prevent
sorrow
all that
publicly,
shit. I don't want to be
expressing her love and the
decomposing and
bittersweet
causing
comfort of
stench.
carrying a part of him with her
I don't want my
in the form of
animatronics
their
smelling
unborn
like
child.
decomp either.
Grant's sister Natasha, who had always been close to him,
I mean, hell, I don't
described
even
how
like people
eagerly
let
he
people
looked
smoke
forward to becoming a
cigarettes in
father
here unless
despite
they're in the
initial
bathroom.
nerves. The family
So,
now
no, I'm
sees
not gonna have
Shauna
all
and
that
baby
sense here.
Makia as the remaining pieces of Grant's legacy, clinging to them as a reminder of the vibrant young
I
man
prevent
they
that
lost.
shit. I live safe.
Friends and members of the South Shields community were stunned by the news, struggling to comprehend how such
Wires
an
around your
unusual
bed.
and heartbreaking
That's
accident
asking for
could
it.
claim the life of a
When I
promising
get out of
young
bed,
man
I
on
want
the
to
brink
clear
of
space
adulthood.
around it.
Grant had always been known as a lively, active teenager who loved boxing and cherished time spent with friends and family. His sister Natasha shared how her brother had weathered numerous accidents before, including motorbike spills and other typical teenage incidents, and that it seemed unthinkable that something as unexpected as a fall onto
Stupid
a
accidents. It
sunbed
says
could
right
prove
on the
fatal.
TV.
Grant's organs
Here I
were
am talking about
donated
it
in the
being
wake of his
stupid.
passing.
He is a
His
dumbass.
family took solace in knowing
Gene
that his
pool.
final act
Snip,
would be to
snip.
help others, even as
Darwin
they
Award.
wrestled with the magnitude of their loss. It would have been what Grant would have wanted, Natasha said. There are people waiting for transplants, and hopefully Grant's organs will help someone else. We don't want any other family to have to go through what we've gone through. Late one evening in 2020, while attempting to disperse an illegal cockfight in his homeland, the Philippines, Lieutenant Christian Bollock found himself facing an unexpected
you're talking about the
danger.
rooster, never mind.
As he reached out to confiscate one of the roosters, a single fatal move changed everything. In the Philippines, cockfighting, or tupada, holds a deep-rooted cultural place, traditionally tied to gatherings and celebrations. However, these fights also involve significant risks, not only to the birds but also to human participants. A steel blade, known as a gaff, is often strapped to a rooster's leg to maximize damage during a fight. Despite the thrill and tradition associated with cockfights, in 2020 these events were made illegal, especially since the COVID pandemic led authorities to ban gatherings. Despite the ban, underground cockfights continued, and in October 2020, Lieutenant Bollock and his team were enforcing restrictions as they responded to reports of an illegal gathering in the village of Madugang, northern Samar. Christian, in his mid-30s and dedicated to upholding the law, led the San Jose police force with unwavering commitment. That evening, he joined his team to break up an illicit cockfight in the hope of stopping not only the gambling and cruelty, but also the potential spread of the virus. These events had been linked to local COVID-19 outbreaks, which by then had claimed thousands of lives across the Philippines. It was just as Christian attempted to confiscate a rooster, one of the animal's gaffs, a razor-sharp metal blade strapped tightly to the animal's leg, sliced into his upper thigh, puncturing his femoral artery. This critical blood vessel, once severed, led to rapid and uncontrollable blood loss. Fellow officers on the scene tried urgently to help their wounded lieutenant. They used a cloth in a desperate attempt to create a makeshift tourniquet. But with limited time and supplies, the efforts to stanch the bleeding proved inadequate. In mere minutes, Christian was losing a dangerous amount of blood. Paramedics were called to rush him to the provincial hospital.
Enforcing my own goddamn
Despite
laws.
their best efforts, Christian Bollock was declared dead on arrival.
Fate and destiny, right
The
here.
sharp blade of the rooster had caused fatal trauma, underscoring the severe hazards associated with cockfights. Risks that extended far beyond the arena.
I'd be in jail in
Edwin
less than 10
Antoine,
minutes.
governor of Northern Samar, voiced
Made a
sorrow
few
and
felonies of
frustration,
my own.
emphasizing the tragic loss of a dedicated officer whose commitment to enforcing health and safety regulations cost him his life. Hong Chuan noted that the team had taken every possible precaution that evening, fully aware of the risks they faced in the raid. We grieve with our provincial police in the loss of such a committed and selfless officer, Hong Chuan remarked, recognizing Christian's sacrifice in protecting his community. To honor Christian's service, the local government offered support to his family, ensuring they were not left to bear their grief alone. His colleagues and community remember Christian Bollock as a brave officer and a selfless protector of his people.
And he already knew what he was getting into. But I don't have anything to say about a police officer who died in action. That's just doing your duty and just
Hey guys, thanks for
being a hero as far as I'm concerned. They're heroes.
Together for you. As always,
They get a pass out of me.
like what you hear and how
Not
you
only
support
that, they get
Because
my
of your
deepest
support,
sympathy.
we're able to continue providing these great
Pardon
stories
me.
for you. Thank you.
Pardon me. Is it another one? Wait a minute. Is there another fucking hour-long one? Don't fucking toy with me.
The most bizarre deaths often feel like they're ripped from the pages of fiction. But trust us, these are all real.
Don't
truly
toy
shocking.
with me. Did I
From
just...
freak accidents to
It's another hour one!
you won't believe how these people met their ends. These stories are so ridiculous, they'll leave you speechless. Get ready for a wild ride through the most insane deaths ever. This is 1 hour of most ridiculous deaths of all time.
Hell yeah, another hour!
It was February 22nd, 2008, in Swansea, South Wales. A 34-year-old graphic design student, Adam Dealey, attended a photography exhibition at the Monkey Cafe nightclub. Originally from Birmingham, Adam had moved to Swansea to pursue his degree, working part-time at the club to support his studies. He wasn't working, but enjoying the event with his friends that night. Adam was known for his friendly personality and love of having fun. As the night went on,
And this is
a
my idea
spontaneous
of fun.
eating contest began among the attendees. It started as a light-hearted joke, seeing who could stuff the most fairy cakes, small sponge cakes, into their mouths.
Fairy
One
cake.
person managed to fit 3, then another fit 4. Adam caught up, decided to join in, and attempted to cram 5 cakes into his mouth. However, things quickly took a
I wonder
serious
how many
turn.
fairy
Adam
cakes I
realized he couldn't breathe and started choking. He walked towards the toilets, likely trying to spit out the cakes. Unfortunately, his friends initially thought he was still joking and didn't notice the severity of the situation. One of Adam's friends, Daniel Finselbach, noticed something was wrong and followed him to the toilets. There, he saw Adam convulsing, struggling to cough up the cakes. Daniel immediately attempted the Heimlich maneuver, trying to dislodge the food from Adam's throat. Despite his efforts, Adam collapsed and hit his head on the toilet. Paramedics were called immediately. They arrived within 10 minutes, but by then Adam had already gone into cardiac arrest. They rushed him to Singleton Hospital, continuing their attempts to revive him, but sadly, Adam was pronounced dead at 3:20 a.m. The news of Adam's death shocked everyone who knew him. Amanda Davey and Paul Dyke, the owners of the Monkey Cafe, were devastated. In a statement, they expressed their deep sorrow and offered condolences to Adam's family, calling it a tragic and avoidable accident. An inquest into Adam's death was held, confirming that the cause was choking due to the blockage of food in both his upper and lower airways. Dr. Maurizio Brotto, who performed the post-mortem,
A fairy cake!
coroner Stuart Rogers, recorded a verdict of misadventure, emphasizing the risks of such actions, saying, "It doesn't take me to say that trying to fit as much food in your mouth as possible is dangerous." During the inquest, it was revealed that Adam had been drinking that night and had about 1.5 times the legal drink-drive limit of alcohol in his system. However, Dr. Brotto explained that this level wouldn't have significantly impaired Adam's judgment, especially since he was used to drinking. The spontaneous nature of the cake-eating contest was a key point of discussion at the inquest. Stephen Jenkins, another attendee, explained how the contest started. There was a tray of cakes from the buffet. My friend tried to put 3 cakes in his mouth, so I tried to beat him by putting 4 in mine. Adam heard about it and tried 5. I saw that he was struggling, but then he walked towards the toilets. Daniel Finselbach, who had tried to save Adam, described what he witnessed. "I saw Adam walk towards the toilets. There was cake around his mouth, and he was struggling to breathe. I ran after him and slapped his back hard, then tried the Heimlich maneuver, but he collapsed."
Oh my god!
Highlighted the accidental nature of Adam's death. Philip Rogers stressed that large amounts of food are inherently dangerous and should be avoided. He also clarified that the bar staff did
Oh my god!
Adam's family was deeply affected by
He
the sudden
choked
death. He was
death
their
on
only
a
child,
ferry.
and his parents, Sandra and Robert, were too devastated to attend the
God
inquest. The
damn
last
it.
time they had seen Adam was during a visit
Oh.
in December. Just 2
I don't know
months
why
after
that's
the
so
fact.
hilarious.
They were proud of their son
Oh.
and his plans to move to New Zealand
Oh,
after
my.
finishing his studies. The Monkey Cafe community also
Oh, man,
mourned
I
Adam's
fucking
death.
cried over it.
Flowers and tributes
Oh.
were laid outside the cafe in his memory. Paul Cunningham,
Oh.
a sound engineer at the
Oh,
club,
that is
expressed
too
his
funny.
sorrow
I don't
and
know
urged
why, but
others
it's
to be
fucking
cautious with similar
hilarious.
pranks. Warning, don't play these games. They can end in tragedy.
Oh.
He described Adam as a kind person who is loved by everyone and will be greatly missed.
It was June 5th, 2014, in Novato, California, when the Moylan family faced an unimaginable loss. Sean Moylan, a 27-year-old known for his kindness and wit, lost his life after falling from the Golden Gate Bridge. His death carried an even deeper resonance as his grandfather, John Moylan, had long fought to make the bridge safer by advocating for barriers to prevent such tragedies. John Moylan was a well-known figure in San Francisco and was celebrated for his dedication to public safety and community service. Born in Ireland, he immigrated to the United States in 1951 and devoted much of his life to union leadership and improving lives. As a board member of the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District, he spearheaded efforts to install a barrier on the bridge to prevent deaths. His mission became personal after losing a grandnephew under similar circumstances, strengthening his resolve to address this issue. After years of debate, the board approved a barrier plan in 2008. However, progress was slow, and construction wasn't completed for years. Tragically, despite John's tireless advocacy, his grandson Sean became one of the individuals the barrier might have saved. Sean had faced significant emotional challenges for years, despite being seen by many as a bright and caring individual. Earlier in 2014, he survived a life-threatening accident in Eugene, Oregon, when he stepped in front of a moving truck. Evidence suggested it was an intentional act. Though he recovered physically, his emotional pain lingered. Family members, including John, spent time with Sean after the incident, believing he was healing. Just days before his passing, Sean appeared upbeat, joking, and enjoying a meal with his family. On the afternoon of June 5th, Sean went to the Golden Gate Bridge. At around 4:22 p.m., the Coast Guard recovered his body from the waters below, confirming the tragic loss. For John, the heartbreak was profound, as he had spent years fighting for the safety of others on the bridge, only to lose his grandson there. In interviews following Sean's death, John spoke candidly about his grandson's struggles. He described Sean as a generous and good-natured young man who had battled inner pain, refusing to place blame on the bridge or anyone else. John acknowledged the complexity of his grandson's struggles. He had a problem, and that's it, John said, emphasizing that no single factor was responsible for what happened. Despite his grief, John remained committed to his mission. Just weeks after Sean's death, the Golden Gate Bridge Board was set to meet and finalize funding for a $68 million project to install a safety net under the bridge. This initiative was bittersweet for John. He had fought for it for years, yet it came too late to save Sean. Since its opening in 1937, the Golden Gate Bridge has become a site of despair for many, with over 1,500 lives lost there. On average, dozens of people attempt to take their lives at the bridge each year. John's work was a reminder that while barriers might help, broader solutions were needed to address mental health struggles. Even as he mourned his grandson, he remained determined to advocate for these changes. The Golden Gate Bridge's safety barrier faced significant opposition over the years. Critics raised concerns about its cost, aesthetics, and potential impact on tourism. Yet John persisted, believing every life saved was worth the effort. Under his leadership, the project eventually gained approval, and construction began, though it would take years to complete. Sean's passing underscored the ongoing challenges of mental health and prevention. While the safety barrier represented progress, John acknowledged it wouldn't stop every tragedy. For him, it was part of a larger fight against an issue that affects countless families. This is an epidemic, John said, hoping continued efforts could bring change. John Moylan's tireless advocacy left an enduring legacy on the Golden Gate Bridge, transforming it into a symbol of hope for countless lives. Sean's heartbreaking story is a powerful call to action, urging compassion and awareness for struggles often hidden in silence. John's unwavering dedication to preventing future tragedies is an inspiring testament to resilience and the power of change. In 1906, in Brunn, Austria-Hungary, now Brno, Czech Republic, is remembered as one of the most influential mathematicians and logicians of the 20th century. His groundbreaking incompleteness theorems changed the way we understand mathematical systems. Yet despite his brilliance, Gödel's life was overshadowed by severe paranoia and mental health struggles, which eventually led to his tragic death. Gödel's early life was marked by illness. At the age of 6, he suffered from rheumatic fever. Although he recovered, Gödel believed this illness permanently affected his
rheumatic. I thought he said
lifelong
pneumatic.
anxiety and a
What the
preoccupation with his
fuck?
physical
Yes,
well-being.
my air pressure
Over
up
the
here,
years, he
man.
experienced several nervous breakdowns requiring hospitalization. Despite these challenges, Gödel's intellectual achievements were remarkable. He studied at the University of Vienna during the 1920s, when the city was a hub for intellectual thought. He became a key member of the Vienna Circle, a group focused on logic and mathematics. Under the mentorship of Hans Hahn, Gödel completed his doctorate in 1929 at the age of 23. His work
Sounds like
revealed
an
that formal
upscale Chinese
mathematical
restaurant
systems
like
were
P.F.
inherently
Chang's rival.
incomplete, no matter how rigorous, a revolutionary concept that recognized him worldwide. In 1931, Gödel published his incompleteness theorems. His first theorem showed that any consistent mathematical system contains truths that cannot be proven within the system itself. The second proved that such systems could not confirm their consistency. This shattered the prevailing belief that all mathematical truths could be derived from basic axioms, securing Gödel's legacy. As his academic reputation grew, Gödel's mental health declined. The political turmoil of the 1930s, including the annexation of Austria by Nazi Germany, deeply unsettled him. Fearing for his safety and the possibility of being drafted into the German military, Gödel fled Austria in 1940 with his wife Adele Nimbersky. The couple settled in the United States, where Gödel secured a position at Princeton University with the help of Albert Einstein, with whom he formed a close friendship. Gödel thrived professionally at Princeton's Institute for Advanced Study, but his personal life was plagued by growing paranoia. The 1936 death of his mentor, Moritz Schlick, who was killed by one of his students, intensified Gödel's fears of being targeted. He became convinced that someone was trying to harm him through poisoning. This fear grew so intense that he would only eat food prepared and tasted by Adele, who supported him through his struggles. As the years passed, Gödel's mental health worsened. He began experiencing hallucinations and developed an irrational distrust of those around him. By the late 1960s, his paranoia extended to friends and colleagues. Despite his continued contributions to mathematics and logic, his deteriorating mental state overshadowed his achievements. In 1977, Adele fell seriously ill and was hospitalized for 6 months. During her absence, Gödel refused to eat, convinced that any food not prepared by Adele was unsafe. His refusal to eat led to severe malnutrition. By the time Adele returned, Gödel's condition was critical. He passed away on January 14, 1978, weighing just 65 pounds. The official cause of death was malnutrition.
Well, that's one thing you never have to worry about
fear of
with
being
me.
harmed.
I will never
Gödel's
refuse
tragic
to
death
eat.
reveals how mental health struggles can deeply
Listen,
impact
fine.
even the most brilliant individuals. His paranoia not only overshadowed
But that's
his
a side
genius,
effect.
but
A
also
good side
ultimately
effect.
led to his demise.
Keeps me
While
out
his
of the kitchen.
groundbreaking work in mathematics and logic remains celebrated, his story is a reminder of the importance of addressing
Now
mental
I'm
health
just sitting here
challenges.
wondering what
What
the
if
fuck's in
Gödel had
lunch
sought
on.
help earlier in life? Could his fears have been
Not
managed,
who, but
allowing him to live a longer and more fulfilling life? His story raises important questions about how society recognizes and supports individuals dealing with mental health issues. Even the brightest minds are not immune to such struggles. Gödel's legacy is
literally
unmatched
taking a
intellectual
mental trip to
achievement
my
paired
kitchen
with
right
profound
now,
personal
assessing
hardship.
what I
His
have.
story continues to resonate, reminding us of the balance between brilliance and the human condition. Lives can change in mere seconds in the most unexpected ways. It is a truth that the town of Lashevo, nestled near the Volga River in Russia's Tatarstan Republic, came to understand on a fateful day in 2013. It began with a simple household task that spiraled into a catastrophic loss, leaving a young girl as the sole survivor of her family. It all started when Mikhail Chilishev, a 42-year-old law professor at Kazan Federal University, descended into the family cellar. It was supposed to be a simple routine task.
What is he,
But
flying a
unbeknownst to
Cessna?
Mikhail, the potatoes stored in the cellar had rotted, releasing what was a foul odor, and even more importantly, a deadly gas. Glycoalkaloids, naturally occurring toxic compounds in potatoes, had accumulated to lethal levels, creating a virtually undetectable trap in the small room. Soon after Mikhail entered the cellar, the noxious fumes completely overwhelmed Mikhail, and he collapsed, never to rise again. A short while later, when Mikhail failed to return, his wife Anastasia became worried. The woman, who was 38 years old, decided to follow him into the cellar, concerned for his safety. Sadly, this decision sealed her fate. She entered the cellar and was overcome by the toxic gas almost immediately. She collapsed to the floor, joining her husband in his untimely end. Their son, Georgy Chelishev, was alarmed by his parents' prolonged absence. After all, they were supposed to go into the cellar and get right back, something they'd done so many times before. Concerned, Georgy, who was only 18 years old, entered the cellar next, only to succumb to the same deadly fate. Meanwhile, Anastasia's mother, 68-year-old Iraida, became increasingly anxious. She couldn't help but feel that something was incredibly wrong with her family. She decided she needed assistance, so she called a neighbor for help. But Iraida did not wait for help to come. The older woman took the matter into her own hands and decided to act herself. Tragically, Iraida also descended into the cellar before help could arrive.
Goddamn, the potatoes killed the whole family.
In a twist of fate that resembles something out of a fairy tale, the family's daughter, 8-year-old Maria Chelisheva, was the only one of her family to survive. When she reached the cellar, she saw that the door was open, which allowed the lethal gases to dissipate enough to spare the little girl. But the sight she encountered would forever haunt her. Her entire family, her father, her mother, her brother, and her grandmother, lay lifeless on the floor. It was too late.
Damn.
The aftermath of this tragedy left Maria orphaned and inconsolable. Maria Chelisheva was taken in by relatives, but nothing could bring her family back. Her dad, Professor Mikhail Chelishev, was honored by Kazan Federal University at a moving ceremony held in its marble hall.
That's horrible.
The devastating incident highlighted the hidden dangers of everyday foods. Potatoes, a dietary staple, can produce toxic glycoalkaloids such as solanine and chaconine, especially when stored improperly or allowed to rot. These compounds disrupt cell membranes and affect the nervous system, causing symptoms like weakness, confusion, and in severe cases, death. Exposure to light, age, and physical damage significantly increase glycoalkaloid levels, concentrating the toxins just beneath the skin. While rare, poisoning from potatoes can have fatal consequences,
Mommy
as
never
this
had
tragedy so
potatoes.
painfully demonstrated.
It was August 7th, 1997, in Buxton, North Carolina, a small village on Hatteras Island. Daniel Jones, a 21-year-old student from Woodbridge, Virginia, was on summer break, enjoying a beach day with his girlfriend, Julie Baker. Daniel was curious and adventurous, passionate about the outdoors. He studied at Northern Virginia Community College and worked as a computer systems engineer. On this day, he was doing something he had loved since childhood, digging in the sand. Daniel had been on Hatteras Island for a week with Julie. The couple had been together for 4 years, having met in high school, and they planned to marry. Julie often joined Daniel on his beach outings, and this time was no different. She watched him dig a large hole in the sand, capturing the moment on her video camera. The hole Daniel dug was unusually deep, around 9 feet deep and 8 feet wide. He had spent most of the morning digging, likely enjoying the cooler temperature and break from the wind inside the hole. Nearby beachgoers saw Daniel digging and assumed he was having fun. They didn't think much of it. Around 1:50 p.m., tragedy struck. The whole walls collapsed, burying Daniel under several feet of sand. Julie screamed for help, and people nearby rushed over. Panic quickly set in as they realized how dangerous the situation had become. The sand was heavy and packed tightly, trapping Daniel underneath. Tourists, locals, and rescue workers immediately started digging. They used anything they could find, from their hands to plastic toy shovels. Even Ollie Jarvis, the owner of a nearby tackle shop, handed out shovels to people trying to help. More than 200 people gathered, working together in a desperate attempt to save Daniel. Unfortunately, the sand collapsed into the hole, making it harder to reach him. It took nearly an hour before the rescue team uncovered Daniel's head. They placed an oxygen mask over his face, but it was too late. Daniel was pronounced dead at Hatteras Island Medical Center.
Of course, they were buried at the sand for an hour. Who the fuck's gonna survive that?
His mother, Mary Ann Jones, spoke about Daniel's love for digging, recalling that it was something he had done since childhood. He always loved playing in the sand, but never dug that deep, she shared. Daniel wasn't just a regular beachgoer. He was also an Eagle Scout, known for his kindness and dedication to helping others. He regularly volunteered at a homeless shelter in Washington, D.C., handing out sandwiches every Friday night. His death left a deep void in the hearts of many who knew and loved him. Julie Baker, his girlfriend,
Why the
was
fuck would somebody
devastated.
dig a hole
The couple
that
shared
deep
dreams for the
anyway?
future, and Daniel's sudden
With the
death
waves
shattered
around
plans.
the ocean?
Friends and family gathered
Fuck.
to mourn the loss of a young man with so much potential whose life was cut tragically short. Locals and tourists alike questioned why Daniel had dug such a deep hole.
See?
Al Dillon, owner of the Outer Banks Motel where Daniel had been staying, remembered his kind and friendly demeanor. He was like a ray of sunshine, she said. Ryan Dawson, a 19-year-old from Buxton who helped in the rescue, expressed his grief over the tragedy. I was just hoping he'd be alive when we got him out, he said. Saddened by the outcome, Daniel James's tragic death shows the hidden dangers of everyday activities. Although seemingly harmless, digging deep holes in the sand can turn deadly when the walls collapse. Despite the overwhelming effort from those around him, Daniel could not be saved, leaving his family and friends to grieve the loss of a bright and caring young man.
Not too bright if he dug a hole like that.
Sunday in a quiet village near Heidenheim in Germany. Ludwig A., 79-year-old man, and his wife, 80-year-old Inge, spent the first part of their day going to church. And then, it was time for their traditional Sunday roast. But the couple decided to forego this culinary tradition for a hearty vegetable stew.
Damn
By the
it,
end
now
of the
that
day,
made me
it
want
was clear
chili.
that this seemingly innocent event would
I'm
lead
going
to
to
an
the store at 9
unimaginable tragedy. The couple had received zucchini from Ludwig's sister-in-law's garden, something that had become a yearly tradition by then. Alongside potatoes, onions, and turnips, the zucchini became the centerpiece of their lunch. As they ate, though, they noticed something was unusual about their stew. The dish was uncharacteristically bitter. They were accustomed to bitter tastes since they grew and enjoyed radishes from their garden. But this was different. Inge chose not to finish her meal. Ludwig, however, ate his portion despite the bitterness. 2 hours later, they came to regret their decision. Both fell violently ill. Nausea and relentless vomiting gripped them, accompanied by diarrhea. Out of the two of them, though, Ludwig was faring worse. His condition rapidly worsened. His strength dwindled. And then, his face turned yellow. Alarmed, they decided it was time to seek medical help. Their family doctor promptly referred them to the hospital, where doctors diagnosed severe poisoning. The culprit, cucurbitacea, a toxic compound sometimes found in plants of the cucurbitaceae family, including zucchini. The toxic compound is rare in cultivated vegetables, but can occasionally reappear due to cross-pollination with wild plants. Its bitter taste serves as a warning, but Ludwig and Inge had been unaware of its danger. The toxin attacked their organs with devastating effects. In Ludwig's case, his lungs became inflamed, and according to Inge, the toxin shredded his intestines. Inge, who had eaten less and vomited more frequently, began to recover. Ludwig's condition, however, spiraled down.
I need to cover my
Inge made
legs.
a
I
full
can't put
recovery
this
and
on
was
the
discharged from the
and seeing
hospital.
that my leg
But Ludwig wasn't as fortunate. 3 days later, Ludwig A.
bite
passed
or
away. Inge later reflected that her survival might have been due to her swift and severe
Well, now that
reaction
I'm
to the
up.
toxin, which expelled much of it from her system before it could do irreparable harm. His tragic death prompted investigations by health authorities and the Ellwangen Public Prosecutor's Office. The Chemical and Veterinary Investigation Office, also known as CVUA, issued an urgent warning. Vegetables such as zucchini, pumpkins, and cucumbers that taste bitter should not be consumed, as this could indicate the presence of cucurbitaceae. Maria Roth, the CVUA's director, confirmed that Ludwig's death was the first recorded fatality from this toxin in zucchini.
August 14th, 2010. A warm Saturday morning in Kentucky. Kalita Nicole Hicks, a 20-year-old from Olive Hill, was driving down Country Road 519 in her Chevy. Kalita lived with her parents, John and Janice Abney Hicks. She also had a brother, Jeremy Clayton, and a sister, Stephanie Campbell. That day, Kalita and her passenger decided to make a dangerous move. They planned to switch seats while the car was still moving. Kalita's Chevy had an open T-top, and they believed this would make the swap possible. Their idea was for Kalita to climb onto the roof, while her passenger...
1 2/3. A cup of water. I'll be right back. I cannot watch TV without eating. I got my scissors in here. Sorry for the delay. I could not see in my kitchen. And there was shit on my measuring cup. Well, not shit, but you never know in this household. I had a guy piss in one of my magic bullets. Well, this smells good. Well, it's telling me that I should microwave it on 50% power for 17 minutes after I microwave it for 3. No. What I'm going to do is microwave it for 6 minutes, and then I'm going to have it on full power, and then microwave it for another 6 minutes. That's what I do with the other rice that I cook. Why should this be any different? How the fuck did this shit get over here? Oh my goodness. How did that? I didn't touch it. I did not move it. Yes. That? This place is haunted because there were dishes moved in my kitchen. There was dishes in front of the microwave. Now I have all my dirty dishes piled up on a certain side, and I never really touched the glass bowls unless I'm running out in the And I sit here sometimes losing shit, and I don't lose anything. I don't misplace anything. Spirits come in here and do that shit. I know it sounds crazy, but so does me being dead. But look on People Finders, I'm dead. So, and I did put that on for 6 minutes. Let me check. Because that just, kind of blew my mind a little bit. I mean, I'm used to spiritual shit happening. I mean, I lost my remote for 3 months and had it reappear, and now I lost my other remote, and I'm just waiting for that to reappear. I know I sound like a crazy crackhead, too. I wish I didn't. No, I take that back. I take that back. I wish I was a crazy crackhead instead of just sounding like one with shit that's actually true and happening around me. I wish it was a hallucination. I wish it was schizophrenia. But nope, it's just the God's honest truth, which sucks. Because being a crackhead would give you a tweaking ass crackhead or a lunatic would actually make my life a little bit more normal. But no, welcome to the wacky adventures of Chase Bristow. Do a series about that.
Just slid into the driver's seat. Kalita began to pull herself onto the roof of the speeding car, but things took a fatal turn. As she climbed, she lost her balance. Her foot hit the steering wheel, causing the vehicle to swerve. Her passenger tried to regain control by grabbing the wheel, but Kalita had already fallen out of the car. As she fell, Kalita hit a guardrail at a high speed. Suffering catastrophic injuries, she was rushed to the University of Kentucky Medical Center
She
in
fell out of a car.
where she underwent surgery. But she
Did
could
I
not
miss
say.
something here?
Kalita.
Her survival might have been due to her swift and severe reaction to the toxin, which expelled much of it from her system before it could do irreparable harm. His tragic death prompted investigations by health authorities and the Ellwangen Public Prosecutor's Office. The Chemical and Veterinary Investigation Office, also known as CVUA, issued an urgent warning. Vegetables such as zucchini, pumpkins, and cucumbers that taste bitter should not be consumed, as this could indicate the presence of cucurbitation. Maria Roth, the CVUA's director, confirmed that Ludwig's death was the first recorded fatality from this toxin in zucchini.
August 14th, 2010.
My
On
mother's
Saturday
birthday.
morning in Kentucky, Kalita Nicole Hicks, a 20-year-old from Olive Hill, was driving down Country Road 519 in her Chevy. Kalita lived with her parents, John and Janice Abney Hicks. She also had a brother, Jeremy Clayton, and a sister, Stephanie Campbell. That day, Kalita and her passenger decided to make a dangerous move. They planned to switch seats while the car was still moving. Kalita's Chevy had an open T-top, and they believed this would make the swap possible. Their idea was for Kalita to climb onto the roof, while her passenger slid into the driver's seat. Kalita began to pull herself onto the roof of the speeding car, but things took a fatal turn. As she climbed, she lost her balance. Her foot hit the steering wheel, causing the vehicle to swerve.
Ah!
Kalita tried to regain control by grabbing the wheel.
Well, she was a
but
dumbass
Kalita
for
had
doing
already
that
fallen
shit
out of the
anyway.
car. As she fell, Kalita hit a guardrail at a high speed, suffering catastrophic injuries. She was rushed.
I mean,
to the
I've
University
never
of
been behind the
Kentucky
wheel
Medical
of
Center in
a
Lexington,
fucking
where she
car,
underwent
okay?
surgery,
But
she could not be saved.
even
Kalita
I,
passed away later that
somebody
morning.
who's never
Lafayette
even
County
started a
Coroner's
car
Office
before,
confirmed that
knows
injuries from
to
the
pull
fall
the
were
fucking
caused by
car
death.
over on the
Her
side
death
of
was
the
not
road if
only
you want to
tragic,
switch
but
drivers.
entirely avoidable.
Or
The reckless decision to
even
switch
wait
seats
until you're
while
at a
the car was
goddamn
moving
stop sign
cost
or
Kalita
Chinese
her life.
fire drill.
Meanwhile, despite avoiding further disaster, the passenger faced legal
Fucking
consequences.
dumbass.
He was arrested and charged with driving on a suspended license, improper registration, and having no insurance. Kalita's sudden death devastated her family. Her parents, John and Janice, were left heartbroken. Her siblings, Jeremy and Stephanie, struggled to cope with the loss. Her grandparents, Alfred and Mary Shrum Hicks, along with the rest of her family and friends, mourned the tragic accident. On August 17th, 2010, Kalita was laid to rest. Her funeral took place at Globe Funeral Chapel in Olive Hill, Kentucky. Kalita was buried in the Hicks family cemetery on Guardian Ridge in Olive Hill, surrounded by her grieving loved ones. Kalita's story later appeared in the Darwin Awards, a platform highlighting deaths resulting from reckless behavior. The Rydam Cowboys labeled Kalita's death as a cautionary story, a harsh lesson about the dangers of risky actions. There are many lessons to be learned from this tragedy. Most importantly, it shows the dangers of not taking road safety seriously. Attempting dangerous stunts while driving can have dire consequences. While Kalita's passenger tried to prevent a worse outcome by grabbing the wheel, his irresponsible decision, driving on a suspended license, contributed to the situation. Kalita's death forces us to reflect on how things could have gone differently. What if they had simply pulled over to switch seats safely? What if they had considered the potential consequences before taking such a risk? Kalita Nicole Hicks, born in 1989, lost her life at just 20 years old due to a single impulsive decision. Her death tells us the importance of road safety, leaving her family and community to grieve the loss of a young woman with so much ahead of her.
Yeah, so much ahead of her. A tombstone. It's a good mix. Bring a look at. Now, I don't typically eat rice, but it's the only thing that I have that would go with this here Dr. Pepper because I don't do dairy and soda. And I have oatmeal and cereal, which are my favorite things. Oh, and ice cream. So, I have this Dr. Pepper here. That rice is the only thing. Now, normally I do not eat rice. Rice, something I don't really seek out, and I'm gonna let you guys in on a little story. My grandfather was in the Korean War, and when I was a child, I always heard about how my grandfather would never ever eat rice, and he had his reasoning, but never really told anybody about it. And One day, I finally coaxed it out of him. In my childhood, I said to him, I was sitting there wondering, why don't you eat rice? Can I got oatmeal on me? Hope there's oatmeal. Yes, oatmeal. Um, and he's telling me that when he was in the Korean War, he went to the rice fields. He saw the rice fields, and there were prostitutes having sex in there. There were people having babies in there, and there were people taking shits in there, vomiting, getting out of the bar. Every kind of bodily fluid you can imagine was expelled in the rice fields. And that ruined him for rice. And that story ruined me for rice for years. For years, I would never even touch the shit. Ever. It was traumatizing to me. Every kind of bodily fluid you can imagine, every kind of bodily matter you can imagine has been in those rice fields. And yeah, a little bit of a thing, turning. I suffered through that story. He suffered through it personally, and now you guys have to endure that. And that's a story that I haven't really told or anything. And I haven't brought that up in over 20 years. Yeah, been a good 20 years since I've brought that up. 20? How's that? No, probably closer to 30. I am about to be 35. 36 next month. Yeah.
It was November 30th, 2004, in Kent, Washington. Philip Quinn, a 24-year-old man, was found dead in his trailer home after a tragic accident involving a lava lamp. Known for his curiosity, Philip was excited to try out his new lava lamp, a decorative item popular for the gentle movement of wax inside. These lamps heat the wax with a bulb, causing it to rise and fall inside a glass container. The lamp is designed to operate at around 60 degrees Celsius, or 140 degrees Fahrenheit, with the wax melting slowly under the gentle heat of a 40-watt bulb. Philip's eagerness to see the lamp in action led to a fatal mistake. Philip grew impatient when the lava lamp didn't start working as quickly as he expected. Instead of waiting, he placed the lamp on his kitchen stove to speed up the process. This decision turned deadly, as the lamp's glass container was not built to handle the direct heat from a stove. The intense heat rapidly overheated the liquid and wax inside the bottle, causing them to expand faster than they were designed to. The wax, which normally rises and falls in a slow cycle, was now heating uncontrollably. Lava lamps are meant to function under controlled temperatures, and the stove's heat pushed the temperature far beyond safe limits. As the pressure inside the glass bottle grew, the lamp's structure couldn't contain it. Within moments, the bottle exploded. A large shard of glass from the lava lamp was propelled through the air with force, striking Philip directly in the chest. The glass pierced his heart, causing a fatal injury. In shock and immense pain, Philip managed to stumble into his bedroom before collapsing. His parents later found him lying dead on the floor, with the remains of the lava lamp scattered across the kitchen. Investigators quickly ruled out foul play or substance use. They determined that Philip's death was the result of an unfortunate accident caused by his impatience. Had he followed the safety guidelines provided with the lamp, the tragedy could have been avoided. During the investigation, police noted the burnt and shattered remains of the lava lamp in the kitchen. It was clear that Philip had tried to speed up the process by using the stove, leading to the explosion. Experts pieced together what likely happened. The wax inside the bottle finally began to move just before the glass container shattered from the excessive heat, sending deadly shards flying. The incident drew public attention, reminding everyone of the importance of following product safety instructions. Lava lamp manufacturers warn against placing the lamps near direct heat sources like stoves, as this poses a significant risk of overheating and explosion. Philip Quinn's death was even investigated by the popular TV show Mythbusters in 2006. In episode 17, the team attempted to recreate the circumstances of his death. They heated a lava lamp on an electric hot plate and used a human ribcage replica to simulate the effect. Their experiment confirmed that the lava lamp could explode when overheated, sending glass shards flying with dangerous force. While Mythbusters demonstrated that an explosion was possible, they didn't find a glass shard embedded in the torso of their human model, as Philip had experienced. However, their tests showed that the extreme heat from the stove caused the pressure inside the lamp to rise rapidly, making the explosion inevitable. Philip Quinn's story exemplifies how a moment of impatience can turn deadly. It underscores the importance of following safety guidelines and using household items correctly. While lava lamps are mesmerizing and beautiful, they are designed to function under specific conditions. When those conditions are ignored, even something as harmless as a decorative lamp
get up
can
and
become
get that rice
dangerous.
out the microwave.
January 2007, Sheila K. Ross and her husband Dane, seasoned truck drivers from McLeod, Oklahoma, were on a route.
I do love these. And yes, I do talk like this to my TV when I'm alone. Why? Because there's nobody here to really talk to. Actually, there is. I've got 25 animatronics I can talk to, but, you know. Yep. That 17-minute bullshit is for the birds. Hell, I gotta vape up my ass. What a fucking cool magic trick. Talk about blowing smoke up your ass. Ah, shit.
Trip. They had traveled to Yuma, Arizona to collect supplies from a dole plant. But what began as an ordinary evening would take a devastating turn, changing the lives of all those involved. That evening, when they arrived at the plant in Arizona, Sheila exited their truck to retrieve paperwork for their load. But when the 47-year-old woman failed to return, her husband Dane became overcome by worry. He too exited the truck and searched the premises himself, but there was no sign of his wife. Dane decided to notify the Yuma police and ask for their help. Officers conducted an extensive search but found no sign of Sheila. As hours turned into days, her disappearance remained a mystery. 3 days later, a dock worker at the Hy-Vee grocery store distribution center in Chariton, Iowa, made a grim discovery. Sheila's body was found in the back of a semi-trailer delivering lettuce. The trailer, owned by a different trucking company, had been at the same dole plant in Yuma on the night Sheila disappeared.
We're running furniture on here.
Experiment confirmed that the lava lamp could explode when overheated, sending glass shards flying with dangerous force. While Mythbusters demonstrated that an explosion was possible, they didn't find a glass shard embedded in the torso of their human model.
Oh, isn't that a damn shame?
However, their tests showed that the extreme heat from the stove caused the pressure inside the lamp to rise rapidly, making the explosion inevitable. Philip Quinn's story exemplifies how a moment of impatience can turn deadly. It underscores the importance of following safety guidelines
more like
and using
stupidity.
household items correctly. While lava lamps are mesmerizing and beautiful, they are designed to function under specific conditions.
Yeah,
When those conditions are ignored,
it's not
even
a
something as
fucking
harmless as a
stew. You
decorative
don't
lamp
put it
become
on the
dangerous.
stove, you dumbass.
January 2007, Sheila K. Ross and her husband Dane, seasoned truck drivers from McLeod, Oklahoma, were on a routine trip. They had traveled to Yuma, Arizona to collect supplies from a dole plant. But what began as an ordinary evening would take a devastating turn, changing the lives of all those involved. That evening, when they arrived at the plant in Arizona, Sheila exited their truck to retrieve paperwork for their load. But when the 47-year-old woman failed to return, her husband Dane became overcome by worry. He too exited the truck and searched the premises himself, but there was no sign of his wife. Dane decided to notify the Yuma police and ask for their help. Officers conducted an extensive search but found no sign of Sheila. As hours turned into days, her disappearance remained a mystery. 3 days later, a dock worker at the Hy-Vee grocery store distribution center in Chariton, Iowa, made a grim discovery. Sheila's body was found in the back of a semi-trailer delivering lettuce. The trailer, owned by a different trucking company, had been at the same dole plant in Yuma on the night Sheila disappeared. Authorities determined that Sheila had been pinned inside the truck during loading, and the compressive force of the pallets of lettuce caused her death. According to Dr. John Kramer, the autopsy showed Sheila was Investigators
You
believe
can't
Sheila
say the
was
word
accidentally pushed
asphyxiate?
into the trailer
Is that
by
a new
forklift
cuss word or
operating in the
something? You
loading area.
fucking piece of shit.
Unnoticed by the driver, she became trapped between the heavy
If you're
pallets
gonna
of
talk
produce.
about death, you
The
should say
intense
these
pressure
words.
left her
Otherwise,
unable to
stick
breathe.
to
Her body
a
remained
recap of the
undetected as
latest
the trailer
episode of
traveled nearly
SpongeBob
1,500
SquarePants.
miles to Iowa.
Talk about Peppa
Sheila
Pig or
died
some
on Tuesday,
shit.
January 30th,
If you're gonna
2007.
cut out the
Statements
adult
from Goa
words,
confirmed the company's
then cut out
cooperation
the
with law
adult
enforcement,
subjects.
but offered little solace to Sheila's grieving family. The
Say
lettuce in the shipment was
asphyxiate.
destroyed, a minor
Or do you have
detail
a
in the face of
speech
such a profound
impediment?
loss. Sheila, remembered as a dedicated truck driver and loving wife, had worked alongside Dane for years. Married in
Are you
1980,
unable to
the
say
couple shared a
spaghetti?
son,
Is it that you
Daniel,
say
and a granddaughter.
busketty?
Her funeral service, held on February 5th, 2007, brought together family and friends to honor her memory.
God,
It was December 8, 2015, in Patagonia, Chile. Douglas Tompkins, the 72-year-old founder of the North Face, was kayaking on General Carrera Lake. This massive lake spans 1,150 square miles and is known for its breathtaking scenery and dangerous waters. It is also infamous for sudden storms caused by unpredictable weather and strong winds. Tompkins, an outdoor enthusiast, had built a career around his love for nature. From rock climbing as a teenager to creating one of the most iconic outdoor gear brands, his connection to the wilderness was undeniable. In later years, he became a devoted environmentalist, purchasing large tracts of land in Chile and Argentina to protect Patagonia's beauty. These lands became conservation parks, a legacy of his efforts to safeguard nature. On this particular day, Tompkins was kayaking with 5 others. A sudden storm swept over the lake as they paddled, turning calm waters into towering waves up to 3 meters high. The group struggled against the storm but couldn't maintain control. All 6 kayaks overturned, throwing the kayakers into the freezing water. The lake's temperature rarely exceeds 4 degrees Celsius, or 39 degrees Fahrenheit. And cold water like this can cause hypothermia within minutes. Struggling in the
so
icy
you can't
water,
say asphyxiate, but you can say
managed to swim to
hypothermia.
a small island. But
You
Tompkins
cherry
and 2
picking
others remained
bastard.
in the lake, unable to reach safety. Tompkins, who had spent his life advocating for outdoor safety and designing gear to protect people in extreme conditions, now found himself vulnerable to the elements. Despite having the knowledge and equipment to face such situations, the extreme cold took its toll. Emergency responders acted quickly. A military patrol boat and a helicopter were dispatched to rescue the stranded group. 3 kayakers were pulled from the water by boat, while Tompkins and the others were airlifted to the nearest hospital in Coyhaique, about 1,000 miles south of Santiago. By the time Tompkins arrived, his body temperature had dropped to 19 degrees Celsius, or 66 degrees Fahrenheit, far below what the human body can survive. Medical staff worked tirelessly to warm him, but his condition was critical. Despite their efforts, Tompkins passed away at 6:30 p.m., a victim of severe hypothermia. His death profoundly affected his family and the global outdoor and environmental communities. Tompkins' passing sparked tributes from around the world. The North Face, the company he co-founded in 1966, called him a passionate environmental advocate. His work in conservation and his commitment to protecting natural landscapes were praised widely. His death, however, carried a deep irony. Despite his lifelong dedication to mastering and protecting the outdoors, nature proved more powerful than any preparation. Born in 1943 in Ohio and raised in Millbrook, New York, Tompkins showed an early love for the outdoors. By his teens, he was rock climbing in the Shawangunk Mountains. At 17, he left prep school and moved west, skiing and climbing in Colorado and California. His passion for wilderness set the course for his future. 1966, Tompkins co-founded the North Face, initially catering to serious skiers and climbers. The company grew into a global outdoor
climb him like a grizzly bear on a tree.
He sold his share and pursued new ventures. He co-founded Esprit, a multinational clothing company, alongside his first wife, Susie Russell. However, after their divorce in 1989, Tompkins left the fashion industry, disillusioned by its role in environmental harm. From then on, he dedicated his life to conservation. In the 1990s, Tompkins moved to Chile and began buying land in Patagonia to protect it from industrial development. In 1991, he founded Pumalan Park,
Never mind, I wasn't going to be around the
606-acre reserve stretching from the Andes to the Pacific. Working with his second wife, Christine Tompkins, former CEO of the Patagonia clothing brand, he expanded these efforts, turning vast areas into protected lands. Though some Chilean politicians accused Tompkins of
I'm not ashamed to admit it, I'm a gold digging hussy.
A visionary who used his wealth to preserve nature. His dedication to protecting Patagonia's landscapes inspired conservationists worldwide. At his death, Tompkins had secured millions of acres of land for conservation, ensuring their protection for future generations. While his loss was devastating, his work left a lasting impact on the environmental movement. Tompkins spent his life advocating for the natural world. And though his final moments were shaped by the wilderness he loved, his legacy continues in the lands he preserved. It was late afternoon of January 29, 1931, when neighbors and friends gathered at Edward and Delphine Hines' farmstead near Grafton, North Dakota. The Hines were throwing a festive dinner party which promised to be an evening of dancing, laughter, and games. A much-needed reprieve from the harsh winter. But as the night wore on, the unsuspecting guests were served a meal that would forever be marked in North Dakota's history. The party concluded with a late-night spread prepared by Delphine. Among the courses was a pea salad featuring home-canned peas, which Delphine had prepared herself, mayonnaise, cheese, and lettuce. Unbeknownst to everyone, including the Hines, these peas harbored a hidden deadly menace. The nightmare began the following day. Arthur Duranby, a 31-year-old farmer, experienced intense stomach pains while tending to his chores. He alerted his family, which rushed to his aid, but not even them or the doctors they employed could save Arthur. By Saturday, he had slipped and figured out the cause of Arthur's illness, the botulinum toxin, produced by the bacteria Clostridium botulinum. On Saturday afternoon, Arthur Duranby succumbed to the toxin's effects. His death marked the beginning of an unrelenting series of tragedies. Harry Chapiowski, an 8th grader who had attended the party, appeared healthy enough to play in a basketball game on Friday. Yet by the next evening, he too was gone. Harry's mom, Mrs. Thomas Chapiowski, died a day later, followed closely by her lifelong friend, who had also attended the party, Mrs. Elmer Stoke. Delphine Hine and her family were not spared. The first to fall ill was Edward Jr., her 16-year-old son, who passed away on Saturday evening. Delphine herself succumbed just 4 hours later. By Sunday night, Edward Sr. and their eldest daughter, 20-year-old Elizabeth, had also perished. Genevieve, only 15, followed early Monday morning. The poison did not discriminate, taking the lives of 13 party attendees over 9 days. Among the deceased were lifelong friends, close relatives, and neighbors. The deaths were eerily consistent, with symptoms of dizziness, impaired vision, and respiratory failure marking the toxin's lethal progression. Those who survived, such as Elmer Stoke, were spared only by chance. Elmer had not eaten the salad. Medical experts acted swiftly once botulism was identified as the culprit. A specialist from the University of Chicago traveled to Grafton with antitoxin serum, but the treatment was rare and prohibitively expensive. It was also only effective if administered early in the illness, and by the time it reached the town, most victims were beyond saving. The last fatality, Winfield Ware, died 9 days after the party, having shown signs of improvement before his condition rapidly deteriorated. Elmer Stoke wasn't the only survivor. 3 of the Hine children also survived. 14-year-old Richard, 12-year-old Wilfred, and 3-year-old Marvin had been spared only because they were too young to join the party and had remained in their rooms that night. Yet their survival came at an unimaginable
I think I may have lost my
They lost
appetite.
both parents and 3 siblings in a matter of days. The boys were taken in by relatives, but their lives were forever altered. Richard, known as Dick, grew up quickly, leaving his relatives' home to work as a farm laborer. He would go on to establish his successful
Especially
dairy
since I was
operation
considering going to buy a salad when I go to the store tonight.
Age 96. Wilfred, or Bill, worked in California's aircraft industry, while Marvin, affectionately called Buddy, returned to North Dakota after serving in World War II and built a life in the grain business.
And that's a pea salad. I
Despite
guess
their
it doesn't pay off
resilience,
being a
the trauma of
vegetarian
the death
after all.
lingered with them. Dick's poignant plea to save their mother's wedding ring so they would have something to remember her by underscored the depth of their loss. It was a tragedy unlike anything Grafton or North America had seen before. Residents mourned the victims during a 4-day funeral procession, during which the town closed its businesses and declared a period of mourning. Fear spread as homemakers threw away their home-canned goods, many discarding entire pantries, despite the economic hardship of the Great Depression. For months, some families subsisted on little more than toast and tea, wary of hidden dangers lurking in their food. But there are lessons to be learned.
Look at
even
me,
in
I'm
dark
weary.
times.
I put that shit back
The
to
disaster
bed.
prompted greater scrutiny of home canning practices, highlighting the importance of proper sterilization and the use of pressure canners for low-acid foods. Though botulism remains rare, the Grafton tragedy stands as a stark reminder of its deadly potential. Today, advancements in food safety guidelines and education seek to prevent such a tragedy from recurring. However, the memory of the Poison Pea Party became a cautionary tale, etched into the history of a town that would never forget. September 26, 2010, in Boston Spa, a small West Yorkshire, England village, Jimmy Heselden, a 62-year-old businessman and philanthropist, was riding a Segway X2. This rugged off-road model designed to handle uneven terrain was part of the product line of Segway Incorporated, the company he owned. Heselden had recently acquired the company and hoped to revive its fortunes after its initial buzz in the early 2000s had faded. Heselden was riding along a narrow bridleway near the river wharf. The path was uneven, with tree roots and ruts, and ran above a steep drop into the river. While riding, Heselden encountered Sean Christie, who was walking his dog. To make room for Christie to pass, Heselden reversed his Segway. The uneven ground made balancing difficult, and the Segway slipped, sending Heselden over the edge. He fell approximately 42 feet into the river below. Christie rushed to help and found Heselden unresponsive in the water. Emergency services were called, but by the time they arrived, it was clear Heselden had passed away. Investigators determined there was no malfunction with the Segway, and the coroner ruled the death an accident caused by the fall. The incident was a tragic result of an act of courtesy and the difficult terrain. Heselden's death was particularly ironic, because it involved the very product he was trying to promote. Known as one of the wealthiest men in the UK, he had built his fortune through Hesco Bastion. This company manufactures collapsible wire mesh containers for protective barriers in military zones. Despite his wealth, Heselden remained grounded, often giving generously to charity. He donated millions to local causes, including £10 million to the Leeds Community Foundation. The Segway was intended to revolutionize
there's another hour-long thing
while it was
on
designed
here.
to be safe,
I'm going to
questions
bed,
arose
but
about its
these are too
suitability
damn
for rough
good.
terrain. However, the investigation
I love
confirmed
that.
that the
I
Segway
love
was
it.
functioning properly, and that
Especially
the
learning
accident was
about
caused by
different
the
ways.
challenging conditions and Heselden's movement on the path. After Heselden's passing, Segway Incorporated faced an uncertain future.
There's nothing
In
about
2013,
death that
it was
doesn't
sold to Roger
fascinate me.
Brown, who aimed to make the product more accessible by
And the
reducing
same goes
costs
for
and
the
redesigning
food
its
industry.
features. Segway later gained modest success in the ride-sharing industry, with companies like Bird and Lime using it for urban transportation. In 2015, Ninebot acquired Segway, helping improve its profitability by adapting the brand to meet new market demands. Despite these efforts, the original Segway was discontinued in 2020. The company shifted its focus to electric bikes, scooters, and other technologies, leaving behind the ambitious invention that promised to change how people moved. Heselden's death sparked discussions about safety and the limitations of technology. His legacy as a
I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I am terrified of robots. Not animatronics, but robots.
Accident while riding the Segway
Animatronics are predictable. You know what they're gonna do.
It was July
Robots
28,
are
1980,
unpredictable.
when 32-year-old Troy Leon Gregg escaped from Georgia State Prison.
Oh.
He was on death row for a double homicide and armed robbery in
Where was he?
1973. That night, Gregg and inmates Timothy McCorquodale, Johnny L. Johnson, and David Jarrell carried out an audacious escape plan. They sawed through cell bars, climbed ledges, and disguised themselves in stolen prison guard uniforms. Their plan worked, and they passed through several security checks unnoticed. This marked the first successful death row escape in Georgia's history. Once outside, they reached a car parked by a relative of one of the inmates. For a brief moment, they tasted freedom. However, Gregg's escape took a tragic turn before the night ended. Gregg's story began in 1973 when he was 25. While hitchhiking through Florida with 16-year-old Floyd Allen, they were picked up by Fred Simmons and Bob Moore. Simmons' car broke down during their journey, and he purchased another vehicle with his own money. Hours later, events spiraled into violence. Gregg claimed Simmons attacked him during an argument, forcing him to act in self-defense. He said he shot Simmons and Moore to protect himself. Allen, however, told a different story. He testified that Gregg had planned to rob the men and had confided this plan to him. According to Allen, Gregg shot Simmons and Moore, then ensured they were no longer alive before taking their belongings and stealing the car. They drove off, but were eventually caught when a previous companion, Dennis Weaver, recognized the victims in a newspaper and alerted authorities. Gregg was arrested with a .25 caliber handgun and later convicted of robbery and the deaths of Simmons and Moore. receiving a death sentence. Greg's trial became significant in U.S. legal history. His case was among the first to involve a death sentence after the Supreme Court reinstated the death penalty in 1976 following the Furman v. Georgia decision. Greg's case introduced a two-phase trial system to ensure fairness in sentencing. Despite his conviction, Greg never stopped planning his escape. On the night of July 28, 1980, he and the other inmates carried out their plan. They exited their cells, reached a fire escape, and walked past guards disguised as staff members. Afterward, Greg called a local newspaper, the Albany Herald, to complain about prison conditions. This call tipped off officials about his escape. By nightfall, Greg found himself in a North Carolina bar. Accounts of what happened.
He called the fucking newspaper to complain about.
Greg, under the influence of alcohol,
You
confronted
dumbass.
a witness, leading to an altercation with a biker who defended her. The confrontation escalated, and Greg was fatally beaten. Another version claims that his fellow escapees turned on him, accusing him of betraying them by revealing their escape plan. They allegedly attacked him in a fit of anger. Regardless of the details, Greg's body was later found in the Catawba River. His cause of death was
It's like they always
suffocation
say.
caused by
Let's just
swelling
get
from severe
stitches.
injuries. Meanwhile, the remaining escapees didn't get far. Within 3 days, McCorquodale, Johnson, and Jarrell were captured in an abandoned house. Though McCorquodale and another man, James Cecil Horn, were initially charged in connection with Greg's death, the charges were later dropped due to insufficient evidence. The exact circumstances of Greg's death remain unresolved. Troy Leon Gregg's escape ended mere hours after it began, with his death under mysterious and violent circumstances. He had spent years on death row, and his brief taste of freedom was cut short by events eerily similar to the crimes that had landed him there. Greg's story leaves many unanswered questions. What if he had successfully escaped? Could he have started a new life? Or would his past eventually catch up? What if his fellow escapees had remained united? Or if they had all evaded capture? Such questions linger, but the one certainty is that Greg's story exemplifies how actions often have unavoidable
What if
consequences.
a frog had wings that wouldn't bump its
His life
ass
and
every
death
time
remain
it
tied
jumped?
to the history of the death penalty in the United States, a haunting reminder of justice, fate, and the irony of his final hours. 28th, 2010 was supposed to be an ordinary day in Mount Carroll, Illinois. As morning came, 3 young men, Wyatt Whitebread, Alex Pacas, and Will Piper, made their way toward the Hotspot grain storage complex. They were supposed to walk down the corn. Yet by nightfall, the rural town would be gripped by unspeakable tragedy. At 14 years old, Wyatt Whitebread was a spirited boy. He had been excited to earn his first paycheck working at the Hotspot grain storage complex. But things had changed. Wyatt had recently expressed unease about the nature of his work, even proclaiming that he wished he never had to see another kernel of corn for the rest of his life. His co-workers were 19-year-old Alex Pacas and 20-year-old Will Piper. None of them had experience in grain handling, which had proved to be a lot more complicated than they'd anticipated. And none of them fully grasped the dangers of the task they faced that day, breaking up clogged corn in a grain bin towering 4 stories high.
Yep.
The job, referred to as walking down the corn, required the boys to shovel kernels toward a central drain hole at the bottom of the bin, allowing the corn to flow freely into the conveyor below. The work began smoothly, but the conditions were dangerous. Beneath the 250,000 bushels of damp, compacted corn was an active conveyor system whose continuous movement turned the grain into a fluid trap. It was about 9:45 a.m. that day when 14-year-old Wyatt began sinking into the corn, the damp grain swallowing him like quicksand. Alex and Will sprang into action. The older boys attempted to pull Wyatt free, grasping him under the arms, but it was useless. The unstable surface gave way beneath their feet, and before they knew it, Alex and Will started to sink as well. Wyatt disappeared first, buried by the cascading corn. Alex and Will struggled to stay afloat as the grains piled relentlessly around them. Alex's cries for help grew fainter as the corn reached his neck and then his chin. Will, trapped up to his chest, used his free arm to try and keep the kernels away from Alex's head. But Will couldn't keep up with the cascade of corn. Soon after, he couldn't do anything but watch in horror as his friend succumbed, and wondered if he was going to be next. By now, the corn was up to his chin. Hosbach supervisor Matt Schaffner called for help, and then climbed into the bin himself and tried to dig the boys out. But he quickly realized it was an impossible task. The Mount Carroll Fire Department arrived within minutes, quickly realizing the enormity.
I'll go drown in some corn.
Grain bins are notoriously treacherous, and extracting victims from them requires specialized techniques.
Go in a silo and
Firefighters,
drown.
paramedics, and technical rescue teams converged on the site,
Screwing and banging.
eventually numbering over
Really
200
wish he didn't have
responders.
some
Rescuers employed grain
chloroform or something.
vacuums, custom-made rescue
in his
tubes,
next breath.
and
I'm
even improvised
screaming.
methods like cutting the bottom out of a bucket to shield Will's face. They worked tirelessly in stifling heat, battling a heat index of 114 degrees inside the metal
Ah,
silo.
you just wait until I go on
Despite their
vacation. I'm
efforts,
gonna
progress was
blast the porn,
painstakingly
man.
slow. Will Piper remained trapped for nearly 6 hours, his body immobilized and his mind haunted by the death of his friends. At one point, rescuers instructed him to embrace Alex's lifeless body to create space for the vacuum to work.
Screwing
Will
and
was
banging.
eventually rescued and
He
taken
needs
to
to
the
be in one of
hospital.
these videos.
Alex's body was retrieved, but Wyatt's remains were buried under layers of corn. Rescuers worked late into the night, finally recovering the 14-year-old's remains. The loss of Wyatt Whitebread and Alex Packus devastated their families. Will Piper faced profound emotional scars. Even more, the tragedy revealed glaring
Oh,
safety
he needs to
failures at
choke to
Hosbach
death on a
LC.
used condom from a day
OSHA's
bar.
investigation uncovered 25 safety
That'll be better for him.
violations, including 12 classified as willful. The boys had received no safety training, were not equipped with harnesses, and were sent into the bin while the machinery below remained operational, a direct violation of safety protocols. Hosbach LLC was initially fined $555,000, but this was later reduced to $200,000, igniting outrage among the victims' families. Civil lawsuits followed, with a jury awarding nearly $17 million in damages, $8 million each to the families of Wyatt and Alex, and $875,000 to Will. The verdict marked a record for Carroll County, but brought little solace to the grieving families. Wyatt's mother, Carla, a retired Army major, struggled with the knowledge that Wyatt hadn't told her he was running down corn. Alex's mother, Annette, grappled with the knowledge that her son died in terror, his final moments consumed by fear. Nothing could bring their children back.
It was the evening of September 2008 in Edlington, South Yorkshire, England. Andrew Lee, a 33-year-old aspiring chef and forklift driver, had decided
Picture
to
with a drink in
participate
his
in a
hand. You
daring
already know
challenge.
he's gonna be a
Known for his
dumbass.
love of cooking, Andrew wanted to test his limits with an incredibly spicy chili sauce. Cooking was more than a hobby for Andrew. He was passionate about trying new recipes and dreamed of someday becoming a chef in France. His room was filled with cookbooks, and he often created new dishes. On this particular evening, Andrew made a bet with his girlfriend's brother, Michael. The challenge was simple but risky, to see who could handle eating the hottest chili sauce. Andrew's father had grown the peppers used in the sauce, specially cultivated for the contest. With their plates ready, Andrew and Michael began the challenge. They ate the sauce with nachos, and Andrew added it to a plate of pasta. This was no ordinary sauce. It was made from some of the hottest peppers available. Even for someone like Andrew, who regularly used chili in his cooking, this was beyond what he had ever tried. At first, both men experienced the expected intense heat. Their faces turned red, and sweat poured down their skin. The sauce was overwhelming, but Andrew powered through. However, soon after the contest, Andrew started to feel an unusual itching sensation, which concerned him, but not enough to seek help immediately. As the night continued, Andrew's discomfort worsened. By 2:30 a.m., he went to bed at his girlfriend Samantha Bailey's house, still feeling the itch. Samantha, who had 4 children, tried to comfort him by scratching his back until he finally fell asleep. The next morning, Samantha woke up to a nightmare. Andrew was unresponsive, lying still in bed. She called for an ambulance, but despite the paramedics' best efforts, Andrew was declared dead at the scene. His sudden death shocked everyone. Andrew had been a healthy man and had recently passed a full medical examination at work. No one could understand how a simple chili eating contest could have such a tragic outcome. An inquest was launched and a post-mortem examination was conducted, but it didn't provide a clear cause of death. To further investigate, toxicology tests were ordered to see if the chili sauce could have caused a fatal reaction. Medical experts explained that allergic responses to chili peppers are rare, but possible. Capsaicin, the compound that makes chilies hot, has some health benefits, but can also cause serious issues in large amounts. Andrew's mother, Pamela, was devastated by her son's sudden death. She described him as a healthy, ambitious man who loved cooking and couldn't understand how such a normal activity could end in such a tragedy. The family waited anxiously for answers, hoping the toxicology results would clarify. This event raised awareness of the potential dangers of consuming
Yeah,
extremely
but you won't
spicy
catch
food.
me eating
Health
anything
experts
spicy. I
warned
can't
against
do
the trend of
spicy
breeding
food.
hotter and hotter chili varieties, noting that even mild reactions can include burning eyes, a runny nose, and hiccups. In rare cases, Severe reactions can lead to more serious complications.
I'm sorry, if I
including
wanted
heart
to
issues,
burn my
which
mouth,
might have
I
happened
would
in Andrew's
stick my
case.
tongue out.
Though
I
the
don't know
exact
why.
cause of his death remains unclear, it's evident that the ultra-hot chili sauce played a significant role. Andrew's love for cooking and willingness to take on culinary challenges ended unexpectedly and heartbreakingly. What if Andrew had decided to skip the challenge that night? What if he had seen the itching as a sign to get medical help? These lingering questions show us the risks that sometimes come with even the most innocent activities.
Sometimes the circumstances of death can be both unexpected and
Another
tragic.
one.
In this video,
I
we'll
didn't do
explore
it.
5 more real stories of people who lost their lives in highly unusual ways. Cases that show how unpredictable life can be.
Hell yeah.
It was October 20th, 1986, when Aeroflot Flight 6502 took off from Koltsovo Airport in Sverdlovsk, now called Yekaterinburg, Russia. The plane was headed for Grozny, with a scheduled stop in Samara. On board were 94 people, 87 passengers and 7 crew members. For most, it was supposed to be an ordinary flight, but what happened next turned it into one of the most shocking aviation disasters in history. The captain, Alexander Kluyev, was an experienced pilot, but on this flight he made a reckless decision. He placed a bet with his first officer, Gennady Zhernov, claiming he could land the plane without looking outside, using only the aircraft's instruments. To prove his point, he ordered the cockpit windows to be covered, blocking all visibility. It was a dangerous and unnecessary risk. While pilots are trained to use instruments for navigation, landing without any visual reference is extremely difficult and not standard procedure. Despite the risk, Zhernov agreed to the challenge. At 3:48 p.m., 2 minutes before reaching the runway, Kluyev gave the order to close the cockpit curtains. As the plane descended, alarms went off, warning that they were too close to the ground. Air traffic control instructed Kluyev to abort the landing and try again, a common safety procedure. But he ignored the warnings. With no way to properly gauge altitude or speed, the aircraft came in too fast, about 170 miles per hour, making a safe landing nearly impossible. The plane struck the runway violently, bounced, and overshot its landing zone. It then crashed off the edge, flipping upside down and bursting into flames. The fire spread rapidly, trapping many passengers. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, but the damage was severe. Of the 94 people on board, 63 died instantly, and 7 more lost their lives later due to injuries. Among those who perished was First Officer Zhernov, who had helped passengers escape but suffered a fatal cardiac event while being transported to the hospital. Miraculously, all 14 children on board survived. Their escape was seen as a rare stroke of luck, as many adults had no way to get out in time. In the immediate aftermath, authorities tightly controlled information about the disaster. The Community for State Security, known as KGB, restricted access to the crash site, and images of the wreckage remained hidden for years. It was only thanks to Colonel A.K. Karpov, a fire department chief, that some photos were smuggled out, later revealing the full extent of the destruction. An investigation quickly determined that Kluyev was solely responsible. His refusal to follow standard safety protocols led to the crash. He had ignored multiple warnings from air traffic control and the aircraft's own alarms, all for a reckless bet. The findings showed that the plane's speed and descent were completely miscalculated, making it impossible to land safely. In June 1987, Kluyev was put on trial. He was convicted of violating aviation safety regulations and sentenced to 15 years in prison. However, he served only 6 years before being released. For the families of the victims, his early release was difficult to accept. As for Zhernov, while he had participated in the ill-fated bet, his final moments were spent helping others. His death added another layer of sorrow to an already devastating event. The Aeroflot Flight 6502 tragedy remains one of the most severe examples of pilot negligence in aviation history. It raised serious concerns about overconfidence in the cockpit and the consequences of disregarding safety protocols. Had Kluyev followed air traffic control's instructions? Had Zhernov insisted they abandon the risky bet? Could the crash have been avoided? These questions remain unanswered, but they highlight the lasting impact of one poor decision. This incident stands as a reminder that even experienced pilots are not immune to critical mistakes. The lessons learned from Flight 6502 continue to influence aviation safety to this day. It was October 15, 2021, in Naucalpan de Juarez, Mexico. A young woman, estimated to be between 20 and 25 years old, decided to surprise her neighborhood with a prank. She dressed up as La Llorona, the ghostly figure from Latin American folklore, and roamed the streets,
I heard about
Eerie
that.
cries associated with the legend. She had always loved Halloween and wanted to entertain and spook her neighbors, but what started as a harmless joke soon took a deadly turn. La Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, is a well-known figure in Mexican culture. According to legend, she was a mother who, in a moment of despair, caused harm to her children and was condemned to roam the earth, crying out for them. Many believe hearing her mournful wails at night is an omen of misfortune. The tale has been passed down for generations, often used to warn children about the dangers of wandering off alone, especially near water. Wearing a flowing white gown and veil, the young woman walked through the San Miguel Dorami neighborhood, calling out, "Oh my children," just as the legend describes. Her voice echoed through the quiet streets, and her appearance startled residents. The sight of a ghostly figure moving in the night, crying out in sorrow, created an unsettling atmosphere. One neighbor, unsure of what they were witnessing, took out their phone and started recording. They weren't sure if it was a prank or something more sinister. The woman, unaware of the growing concern she was causing, continued her act, determined to complete her performance. However, someone in the neighborhood mistook the prank for something far more serious. Whether out of fear, confusion, or genuine panic, one resident reacted in an extreme and irreversible way. The frightened individual, believing they were in danger, grabbed a firearm and opened fire. Several shots rang out in the night. The young woman collapsed, fatally wounded. The person responsible fled the scene immediately, leaving the community in shock. Authorities arrived soon after, finding the woman's body in the street. The tragic outcome of what was supposed to be a playful scare left the neighborhood stunned. Police launched an investigation, but the shooter's
It's like I always say,
no
play
arrests were
stupid
made at
games,
the time.
win
The
stupid
woman's name
prizes.
was not released, adding to the mystery surrounding the case. News of the incident spread quickly, especially since
dressing
it
up a
occurred just before
Sasquatch and
Dia de
roaming
los
the
Muertos,
woods.
Mexico's Day of the Dead, a time when families honor their deceased loved ones. What was meant to be an innocent Halloween prank had turned into a heartbreaking event. Videos of the woman dressed as La Llorona, wailing in the night, quickly surfaced on social media. Some clips showed her moments before the incident, while others captured the aftermath. The footage sparked widespread debate about safety, fear, and how quickly situations can escalate. Many questioned if the response had been justified, or if the tragic outcome could have been avoided. The case also reignited discussions about the dangers of pranks that can be misinterpreted, especially at a time when fear and uncertainty can cause people to react unpredictably. Some pointed out that the deep-rooted cultural belief in La Llorona might have heightened the fear that night, making the situation even more volatile. As days passed, authorities continued their investigation, but no further developments were reported. The shooter remained unidentified, and the community was left with unanswered questions. Could things have played out differently if fear hadn't taken over? If the prank had been less unsettling, would the woman still be alive? This incident served as a tragic example of how quickly a joke can spiral out of control. A simple act meant to entertain turned into a devastating loss. While the woman's identity remained unknown, her story left an impact, reminding people of the fine line between harmless fun and unintended consequences. It was 2024 in Deshaipet, a small village in Kamareddy district, Telangana, India. Shivaraj, a 20-year-old snake rescuer, was well known in his community for handling venomous reptiles. He had learned the skill from his father, Ganga Ram, a seasoned snake catcher. Together, they made a living by capturing snakes and releasing them back into the wild. But on this day, Shivaraj wanted more than just another rescue.
He wanted to be a dumbass.
Shivaraj and his father had been called to remove a cobra spotted in the village. Instead of simply catching the snake, Shivaraj decided to record a video for social media. He had handled snakes many times before.
Show the world you're a dumbass. Record that video, honey. Go for it. Reach for the
securing the
stars.
2-meter-long cobra, he took selfies with it before attempting something even more dangerous. He placed the snake's head inside his mouth, hoping the daring act would impress his audience. The entire event was filmed. In the video, Shivaraj is seen standing in the middle of a road, confidently holding the cobra as it struggles to escape. At one point, he folds his hands in a prayer-like gesture, runs his fingers
He
through
needs
his
that
hair,
prayer-like gesture.
and even gives
He's
a
about to
thumbs
join
up
the
to
fucking
camera.
angels.
He seemed unaware of the real danger lurking just seconds away. The video lasted 44 seconds, but moments after the recording stopped, tragedy struck. The cobra, desperate to free itself, bit him inside his mouth. The venom acted fast, spreading through his system almost instantly. His father, who had been filming, rushed him to the hospital. However, despite their efforts, Shivaraj did not survive. The shocking footage quickly spread online, sparking outrage and disbelief. Many viewers were horrified.
Yeah, I'd be in
questioning
disbelief
why
too. I
someone
can't
risked
believe
their
somebody
life
would be
for
such a
social media
dumbass.
attention. Others pointed to the growing trend of young people attempting reckless stunts in pursuit of instant fame. Shivaraj's father had built a reputation for their skills in handling dangerous snakes. But this time, the young rescuer's decision to turn his work into a spectacle led to devastating consequences. Despite his experience, he underestimated the risks. This wasn't the first time someone had attempted a dangerous stunt for social media. Just a few months earlier, in Andhra Pradesh, a man named Madhubabu Nagaraju had also provoked a cobra for over an hour, ignoring warnings from bystanders. The snake eventually struck, leaving him in critical condition. Fortunately, he survived, but his actions served as yet another example of how far people are willing to go for online attention. Shivaraj's tragic death has left his family and community in mourning. His father, who had trained him and recorded his final moments, now carries the heavy burden of knowing that the stunt meant to gain popularity instead took his son's life. The incident has sparked discussions about the dangers of social media pressure. In an era where online fame is highly sought after, many young people push limits without considering the real-world consequences. Authorities in Telangana have expressed concern over these growing trends. They plan to increase awareness about the dangers of handling venomous animals and performing high-risk stunts. Some have even called for stricter regulations regarding the handling of dangerous wildlife, especially in the context of social media. Shivaraj's story is a heartbreaking example of how far some are willing to go for views and likes. While social media can be a powerful tool, it has also encouraged extreme behavior in the pursuit of recognition. Shivaraj's final video may have gained attention, but it came at a terrible cost. His life was cut short, leaving behind grief, regret, and a lesson that should never be forgotten.
You know, that's a genius idea. You should have to pass some sort of IQ
It was March 9,
before you're able to
2023,
legally
in
own a
Donnybrook,
mobile
Tom
device.
McDonald, a 92-year-old father of 5, had been living with his daughter, Ailby, for over a year after his wife, Viola, moved to a nursing home. He had been diagnosed with dementia 5 years earlier, and his condition had recently worsened. That night, something unexpected happened. At around 3:30 a.m., Ailby heard her father moving around the house. This wasn't unusual. Tom often woke up confused about the time and sometimes went to the kitchen to prepare food. Assuming he would return to bed soon, she waited. But after 20 minutes, when he didn't come back, she decided to check on him. In the kitchen, she found Tom standing by the counter, looking unwell. He told her he had eaten something and wasn't feeling right. When she looked at the bowl in front of him, she was shocked. His cornflakes were soaked in a purple liquid. It was washing detergent. Tom admitted he had eaten it. Ailba, horrified, asked if he was sure, and he confirmed it again. He had already begun vomiting and complained of throat pain. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Ailby immediately called for an ambulance. Tom's condition rapidly declined. Despite his protest, he was rushed to St. Vincent's University Hospital. Doctors sedated him to stabilize his condition, but the detergent had already caused severe damage. It affected his stomach and lungs, leading to breathing difficulties. By 8:50 a.m., Tom had passed away. The official cause of death was aspiration pneumonitis, a condition that occurs when harmful substances enter the lungs, causing swelling and breathing difficulties. The hospital contacted the National Poisons Information Center, but there was no antidote for the detergent. The damage was irreversible, and nothing could be done to save him. His family was devastated. Though Tom's dementia had been getting worse, he had still been independent.
I called that
shit. Spoiled food, but no one had imagined something like this could happen. The detergent was stored in a cupboard far from the fridge, and Ailby never thought he would mistake it for something edible. Experts suggest that Tom's weakened sense of taste may have played a role in the accident. Dementia can affect a person's ability to recognize flavors and smells. As his condition worsened, he could no longer cook for himself and often ate whatever he found, even if it was unsafe. That night, confusion led him to pour detergent into his cereal, unaware of the danger. Tom's other daughter, Aislinn, was shocked by how quickly it happened. One moment, he seemed fine. The next, he was gone. The family had been managing his dementia for years, but never anticipated this outcome. The inquest into his death showed the risks faced by dementia patients. People with advanced dementia can become disoriented and struggle to distinguish between everyday items and dangerous substances. This case shed light on the importance of taking extra precautions when caring for someone with cognitive impairments, especially in their home environment. Tom McDonald
he wanted to clean out his cornflakes
and later worked as an accountant. But in the end, a simple mistake led to tragic consequences. His family had been worried about his condition, and the challenges of caring for him at home. But they never expected that something as routine as breakfast could lead to his death. The coroner ruled his passing as accidental and referred the case to organizations like the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland and the Health Service Executive to help raise awareness about the dangers dementia patients face at home. She noted that this was a rare case, unlike anything she had seen before, but one that
I wouldn't expect anybody to see cornflakes and soaked in detergent.
The detergent had been stored in a more
I don't like anything she's seen before. Yeah, how many times can somebody see somebody eating cornflakes and detergent?
While no one can turn back time, Tom's story shows the unpredictable risks of dementia. It's a reminder of how important it is to ensure the safety of those who struggle with memory loss and confusion, especially when it comes to household hazards.
God damn it.
It was March 15, 2013, in Longmont, Colorado. 18-year-old Pramila Lal was an energetic and well-loved young woman. She had recently graduated from Niwot High School, where she was known for her talent in track and her outgoing personality. That Friday night, she was spending time with friends, unaware that a simple prank would end in tragedy. Pramila and her 12-year-old cousin decided to play a harmless joke on a close family friend, 21-year-old Narek Daniel Gali. Gali was at a rental home playing video games with Pramila's 15-year-old brother, Pranil. Unaware of the prank, the two boys were caught off guard when they heard strange noises coming from another room. Hiding quietly in a closet, Pramila and her cousin waited for the right moment. But as Gali and Pranil grew suspicious, they assumed an intruder was in the house. With the home nearly empty, since Pramila's family was in the process of moving, there was no one else around. Then, at the worst possible moment, Pramila jumped out to surprise them. Startled, Gali panicked. In a split second, he grabbed a gun and fired. Pramila was hit. The shock was immediate. Her younger cousin, terrified, rushed to help. The group made a desperate decision. Gali and the two younger boys rushed Pramila to Longmont United Hospital, hoping to save her. Outside, a neighbor had heard loud yelling from the house. Realizing something was wrong, she and her husband called the police. By the time officers arrived at 8:02 p.m., the house was in chaos. The front door was open and confusion filled the scene. By 9 p.m., Pramila was gone. What started as an innocent joke had ended in an irreversible tragedy. Gali was arrested early Saturday morning. He faced multiple charges, including reckless endangerment and allowing a minor access to a firearm. Authorities found that the gun had been in the hands of Pramila's younger brother before the incident, something their parents had not permitted. A police search of the home revealed the gun still loaded, with a live round jammed near the ejection port. It had been left near the stairs in the living room, a haunting reminder of what had happened. Gali, who had no strong ties to the community, was considered a flight risk. He was held on a high bond as police worked with the Boulder County District Attorney's Office to determine if further charges would be filed. His attorney made no public statement. For Pramila's family, the pain was unbearable. Her father, Praveen Lal, spoke to reporters, struggling to process what had happened. He described his daughter as a ray of sunshine and admitted he was still in disbelief. Despite his grief, Mr. Lal did not express anger toward Gali. Instead, he showed remarkable compassion, emphasizing that while they had lost a daughter, they did not want anyone else to lose a son, especially due to an accident. The family was devastated, yet they did not want to see another life ruined by the tragedy. Pramila had been a bright presence in her community. She was popular, well-liked, and deeply involved in her school's cross-country team. After her passing, the track team organized a special meet in her honor, celebrating her life and the impact she had on those around her. Longmont, once a small farming town, had grown into a modern tech hub, yet nothing in its history had prepared the community for such a heartbreaking event. The loss of Pramila affected everyone. As the investigation continued, many were left wondering how things had gone so wrong. Could this have been prevented if the prank had been called off? If the gun had been safely stored away? If Gali had reacted differently? What if Pramila had not jumped out at that exact moment? Would they have just laughed it off and moved on with their night? What if the family had decided not to participate in the prank at all? Would Pramila still be here, enjoying life as a young woman with a bright future? The community was left searching for answers that would never fully come. No matter what the legal outcome was, one truth remained. Pramila was gone, and for those who loved her, the pain of that loss would never fade.
You don't do that shit right now.
Death is a certainty for us all.
God damn, here we go again.
So bizarre, they seem almost unreal. From freak accidents to inexplicable twists of fate, these deaths will leave.
I'm fucking loving this shit.
Could fate be playing a cruel joke?
I'm literally having the time of my life right now enjoying watching this shit. I love this content.
The most unusual deaths in human history.
I am feeling the food coma.
Convicted in 1981
this
for
is
a heinous
paradise for me,
crime,
though.
Michael Anderson Godwin's life unfolded through a series of consequential events, culminating in his death that echoed the very punishment he once faced. yet managed to escape. Some would say his death was a case of poetic justice, but what happened to the 28-year-old? In 1978, Michael Anderson Godwin, who also went by the name Michael Anderson Sloan, was serving time for a robbery conviction when he was allowed temporary work release. During one of these periods, he committed a brutal crime. The victim, 24-year-old Mary Elizabeth Royam, was found in her West Columbia apartment where she had been assaulted and struck repeatedly with an electric iron. The cruelty of the act and its devastating aftermath were shocking. When the case went to trial in 1981, Godwin was convicted and faced the grim sentence of death by the electric chair, then South Carolina's standard method of execution. However, 2 years later, in 1983, his sentence was reversed. A retrial found him not guilty of all the original charges, and the death penalty was commuted to life imprisonment. This reprieve marked what many would consider a monumental twist of fortune. Escaping the electric chair was no small victory. Perhaps not wanting to waste his chance at life, Michael Anderson Godwin made efforts to change. Over the following years, he exhibited what prison authorities described as model behavior. He pursued his education, earning 2 college degrees and nurturing aspirations of working with young people upon his potential release. Yet his story took an abrupt, tragic turn that underscored the irony of life and death. In March 1989, Godwin was alone in his cell at the Central Correctional Institution in Columbia, South Carolina. He was sitting on a metal toilet, completely naked, attempting to repair a pair of malfunctioning earphones connected to his television.
Oh yeah, I heard about this. He created his own electric chair.
Only earphones were allowed, and Godwin, lacking proper tools, decided to use his teeth to strip the insulation from the wires. Unbeknownst to him, his method of improvisation would prove fatal. The metal toilet he sat on, combined with his contact with the exposed wires, created a conduit that led to an intense electric shock. The current surged through his body, amplified by the metal beneath
like
it, conducted surface, and stopped his heart on the spot. The electrocution left severe burns on his mouth and tongue, a cruel irony for a man who had narrowly escaped death by electric chair years earlier. Godwin was discovered lifeless during a routine cell check, with the coroner's report confirming accidental death. The irony of Godwin's end was impossible to overlook. Here was a man who had spent years under the shadow of an electric execution, and just when he thought he had escaped that fate, he died through electrocution of his own making. His death was an incredible twist. For some, this outcome might have appeared as poetic justice, considering that an electric iron was the weapon used in the crime that sealed his fate. For others, it was a tragic conclusion for a man who, despite his dark past, had shown signs of reform and a desire to contribute positively to society. If anything, his death was proof that fate and maybe uninformed decisions proved the limits of human control. On July 2nd, 2011, Felipe Cantos, a 55-year-old man from Parrish, New York, set out to participate in a rally, a protest against mandatory helmet laws. Known as a seasoned rider with 3 decades of experience, Cantos joined approximately 550 other participants in an event organized by the Onondaga chapter of American Bikers aimed towards education and ABATE.
I think I want to
advocated for the voluntary.
It's my bed. Yeah,
and
take me a nice little nap.
Annually for 11 years around
I'm falling asleep.
Weekend. Cantos was about his position, but in
I'll
unexpected and ironic
be back on whenever.
proving the opposite of his beliefs.
Have a wonderful day. I was about to say good night, but I'm about to have the good night. You guys have a good day.
Activities such as archery, hunting, and fishing. It's safe to say he was an active man. Even